100 Years Later, Chapter 1. 100 years later, in a cluttered bedroom on a wooden bed. My head hurts so much. I am still alive. Ye Tian's chaotic thoughts slowly cleared, and the memories of what happened before emerged in his mind one by one. At the same time, a brand new set of memories fused with his soul. So I underwent transmigration. He gave a bitter smile. This body was not his own, but that of a youth with the same name as him. He came from the era of 2019, but now it was 2119, also known as the 100th year of the Origin era. In other words, he had arrived in an era 100 years later. The era 100 years later was also known as the Origin Kai era, and also as the Talent era. Ye Tian digested the information in his mind regarding the past 100 years one by one. At the beginning of 2019, many spatial rifts appeared on Earth, and countless vicious beasts swarmed out from them. Humanity suddenly fell from the top of the food chain, struggling to survive under the ferocity of the vicious beasts. Facing the vicious beasts, humanity tried to use thermal weapons to eliminate them, but a mysterious substance appeared between heaven and earth, which was later called Origin Kai by people. This Origin Kai destroyed the structure of thermal weapons, preventing them from functioning as intended. Even the ultimate weapon, the nuclear bomb, became scrap metal. Humanity suddenly entered the era of cold weapons, and weak humans relying on cold weapons were no match for the vicious beasts. Fortunately, the vicious beasts that had just entered Earth were all low-level vicious beasts, which gave humanity a chance to survive. After research by many scientists, humans discovered that the newly appeared mysterious substance on Earth could be utilized by humans, and thus a brand new profession appeared: martial artist. Refining the physique, absorbing Origin Kai, and breaking through human limits is what makes a martial artist. At the same time, human talent was unlocked. A small portion possessed talent, and the most common one was cultivation talent. Cultivation talent determined the ultimate achievements a person could reach. Besides cultivation talent, there were other talents, such as blade talent, flame talent, ice talent, and so on. Relying on talent and martial artists, humans were gradually able to contend with the vicious beasts, but most areas on Earth were occupied by vicious beasts. Only a very small portion of the area was occupied by humans, where they established various survival bases. It is worth mentioning that today's Earth is far larger than before. It seems that under the influence of Origin Kai, the Earth has expanded hundreds of times. Origin Kai, talent, vicious beasts, what a spectacular world. Ye Tian took a deep breath and then smiled. Perhaps being able to come to this era was not bad for him, but soon his expression turned heavy. Spatial rifts appeared, Origin Kai descended, and a very small number of people on Earth awakened their talents on the night Origin Kai descended. Cultivation talent is innate and does not need to be awakened, but other talents can be awakened later. However, for the people of that time, talent awakening was not a good thing, but a disaster, because without a matching strong physical body, talent awakening was courting death. According to records, many humans at that time had their physical bodies destroyed by the powerful force brought by talent awakening. They either died or were crippled. It seems that I was the one who, because of awakening an inexplicable talent, exploded. Ye Tian could be certain that he had absorbed countless amounts of Origin Kai at that time, and his whole body exploded, resulting in his death. What kind of talent did I awaken back then to actually make my body explode? Although humans from 100 years ago would suddenly awaken talents because their bodies had not adapted to Origin Kai, even if others couldn't bear the power brought by talent awakening, they would at most burst to death or be crippled. I can imagine the talent I awakened must have been heaven-defying. Unfortunately, I transmigrated and cannot know what that talent was. Ye Tian felt quite regretful. After organizing the information from his previous life and this era, Ye Tian slowly began to examine his current body. This body was 15 years old, which, in the Origin Kai era, was the time to just start cultivating. Before the age of 15, the body had not fully grown and was not very suitable for cultivating, unless some big family used precious treasures to catalyze the body's growth. allowing for early cultivation. It could be said that 15 was a golden age. Once past the age of 20, if one were to cultivate, even if their talent was high, their future achievements would be very limited. Fortunately, it is not the body of an old man, otherwise I would be miserable. Wait. Ye Tian's expression changed suddenly. He finally remembered something from his memories, and that was the talent of this body. The talent of this body was very, very low, weak-grade talent. In this era, the most important talent is cultivation talent, and cultivation talent from low to high is classified as weak grade, secondary grade, elementary, medium tier, and high grade. It is said that there are even higher talents above high grade, but that was a secret not known to Ye Tian. Anyone who reaches the age of 15 can buy a talent stone to check their talent, limited to checking cultivation talent. Other talents require specialized attribute talent stones to be seen. The predecessor, after turning 15, excitedly bought a talent stone to check his talent in his room, only to find that he had weak-grade talent. In despair, he died from the shock, which is how the transmigrated Ye Tian took over. Damn it, weak-grade talent. This is the trashiest cultivation talent. There is no hope of even becoming a martial artist. Ye Tian was also in despair. Martial apprentice and martial artist are the first two realms of cultivation. Martial apprentice is not actually considered a real realm. Martial artist is considered the first true realm. Possessing 1,000 katas of strength is enough to become a martial artist. But to become a martial artist, the minimum requirement is secondary grade talent. Secondary grade talent is one level higher than weak grade talent, but even then, one would struggle to barely reach the early stage of a martial artist in their lifetime. However, overall, secondary grade talent at least offers hope. Once one becomes a martial artist, even at the early stage, one is considered a big shot, superior to ordinary people. But weak grade talent is awkward. Even if one cultivates for a lifetime, one remains a martial apprentice. This is a limitation of talent. If only I could change my talent. Ye Tian comforted himself. Knock, knock, knock. A series of knocks on the door rang out. "Brother, are you inside?" A slightly immature girl's voice came from outside the door. Ye Tian knew that it was his sister in this life, Ye, who was 13 years old this year. Ye Tian opened the door and saw a cute girl who looked like a porcelain doll. "Brother, how is your talent?" Ye asked with great curiosity. Talent is everyone's secret. Unless it is a close relative, if others ask, it is a provocation. After all, no one wants their talent to be known by others. For example, some people with high talent, once their specific talent is known by others, might attract assassination. In this world, such things have not happened before. Therefore, no one is allowed to ask about others' talent. However, Ye Tian naturally would not blame his sister. "Xiao Yu, brother's talent is quite good. In the future, I will definitely be able to become a great martial artist." Ye Tian stared at Xiao Yu and smiled slightly, but his smile was full of bitterness. But the next moment, his pupils constricted and he was shocked. He saw a virtual screen appearing on his retina. Human. Ye Yu cultivation talent, secondary grade ice talent, elementary not awakened. Chapter 2, Copy talent. What is this situation? Ye Tian was at a loss. At first glance, he thought it was an illusion, but in the end, he was absolutely certain that everything before his eyes was not an illusion. The data displayed on his retina was real. It was not an illusion. Golden finger. No, perhaps this is my hidden talent. Ye Tian pondered for a moment, then thought. Ye Yu was only 13 years old and had not yet reached the age to cultivate, but cultivation talent is born at the moment of birth, so it was normal for Ye Yu to possess cultivation talent. As for the ice talent, it belonged to a category of talents outside of cultivation talent. It was extremely rare, 1 in 10,000. If it were awakened in the future, it would absolutely crush opponents of the same rank and even have the potential to fight across ranks. It is said that after becoming a martial artist, one can absorb Origin Kai, and other hidden talents will slowly awaken. But there are too few people who possess other talents. I didn't expect my younger sister to actually possess the rare ice talent. However, is my talent just being able to see other people's talents? Ye Tian felt that his talent was definitely not that simple. Soon, he experimented and discovered some things. When he touched his younger sister, he discovered that the cultivation talent in the virtual screen had a copyable tag behind it. In other words, he could copy his younger sister's secondary cultivation talent. However, the ice talent had not yet awakened, so Ye Tian could not copy it. Copy. Facing this choice, Ye Tian naturally declined. Although secondary talent was better than his own weak talent, it was still trash. Even if he copied it, it would be useless. After sending his sister away, Ye Tian stayed in his room alone to examine his talent. I can see my sister's talent, so I should be able to see my own talent too, right? Ye Tian thought to himself. Therefore, Ye Tian focused his attention on himself. Soon, information about his own talent appeared on his retina. Human, Ye Tian cultivation talent. Weak. It was a very simple talent status. This indicated that apart from his weak cultivation talent, Ye Tian had no other hidden talents. In the language of this era, he was a standard piece of trash, only slightly better than an ordinary person with no talent at all. Now, the basic situation is clear. This magical ability of mine should be the mysterious talent that caused me to explode and die back then. It followed me through the transmigration. This talent should be called copy talent, capable of copying other people's talents. As for whether it overwrites my own talent or fuses with it, that requires experimentation. Additionally, copying someone else's talent requires touching them, which is a bit troublesome, but perhaps it will change in the future. After sorting this out, Ye Tian had a plan: to copy the cultivation talent of a genius. Otherwise, relying on his own weak talent, he would never reach the martial artist level in his entire life. And if he didn't become a martial artist, life in the future would not be easy. Ye Tian's parents died at the hands of a vicious beast a year ago. Now, the only people left in this family were him and his younger sister. This was also the current situation for many families. After all, in this era, humanity was still struggling to survive. People were dying every moment, and who knew how many families had been torn apart? The place where Ye Tian was currently staying was a small base called Coastal Base. The entire base had a total population of 300,000, among which there were only about 1,000 martial artists, and martial artists possessed privileges that ordinary people could not enjoy. Ye Tian's deceased parents were martial artists, but unfortunately, they died in the wilderness during a mission. Even though they were dead, the base would provide this family with a certain allowance. For example, they could receive the base's subsidy before the age of 15, which could ensure their living. But once they passed the age of 15, they would lose the subsidy. Ye Tian had already reached 15, so he had lost the subsidy. Only his younger sister, Ye Yu, still had the subsidy, but it was only enough to support one person. The two of them were young and had no way to make money. In order to save money, he and his sister, Ye Yu, even dropped out of school early. In Coastal Base, as long as one was 9 years old, they could attend school, which lasted until they were 15. As for the elementary, middle, and high schools from before the apocalypse, they did not exist in this era. The things learned in school were language, mathematics, and some knowledge about vicious beasts. He and Ye Yu had learned almost enough, so dropping out did not have much impact. My parents left behind an inheritance. Although it is not much, it is enough for me to live on for a few years. But what about later? If I don't reach the martial artist level, the only way to make money is to work for others. Work for others. That is impossible. It is impossible to work for others in this lifetime. Becoming a martial artist is the only way out in this era. Let's go for a walk on the street. After Ye Tian made up his mind, he instructed his younger sister to stay safely at home, and then he went out alone on the street. People were coming and going, and it was very lively. Most were ordinary people, some were martial apprentices, and only a few were martial artists. These martial artists exuded a powerful aura. If one got too close, even breathing would become difficult. Secondary talent, weak talent, secondary talent. Ye Tian walked around for a while and discovered that most people had weak talent or secondary talent. He didn't even see many with elementary talent. He only saw it on a few martial artists. It seems that in Coastal Base, elementary talent is considered quite good. Ye Tian frowned. But thinking about it, it made sense. Coastal base was just a small base, and the strongest person was rumored to be only a great martial artist. Cultivating secondary talent to the limit would only result in an early-stage martial artist. Elementary talent guaranteed one would become a martial artist and had a small hope of becoming an elite martial artist. Medium-tier talent guaranteed one would become an elite martial artist and had a small hope of becoming a great martial artist. The great martial artist in Coastal Base was already very old, and presumably, they only had medium-tier talent. Medium-tier talent, at the very least, I need to find someone with medium-tier talent to copy. I cannot get close to those martial artists, otherwise, if I touch them, I might get killed by them. Even if a martial artist killing an ordinary person violates the base's regulations, they would at most be fined some money and nothing would happen. Especially for someone like me with no background, there would be no one to stand up for me. Therefore, I cannot risk copying the talents of martial artists. The base has 300,000 people. My copy talent can only view other people's talents within 3 meters. This distance is too small. If I check everyone's talent one by one, the speed will be too slow. The best method is to specifically look for people, find out which martial apprentice cultivates quickly, and then go and see what their talent is. As long as there is someone with medium-tier talent or higher, I will copy it. I don't believe that in this huge coastal base, there isn't even one person with medium-tier talent. Martial apprentices were basically concentrated in the major academies. Coastal Base had 5 major academies. As long as one was 15 years old, they could attend these academies. Except for the Coastal First Academy, which required elementary talent or certain connections. The other academies had no requirements. You could attend as long as you paid. My predecessor originally wanted an elementary talent to attend the First Academy, but now, even if I had an elementary talent, I wouldn't dare to go to the First Academy. The First Academy requires talent testing. If I let others know about my talent, and it later became higher, I would definitely be sliced up and studied. Ye Tian said helplessly. Now, he had no choice but to settle for the next best thing and attend another academy. In fact, he also had to attend an academy to learn. Otherwise, he would not be able to learn the body forging method. Martial apprentices could not absorb origin Kai and could only cultivate the body forging method to temper their bodies, thereby possessing 1,000 katas of strength and becoming a martial artist. Chapter 3. Medium-tier cultivation talent obtained 5th Academy, Martial Arts Training Ground No. 3. To become a martial artist, one must have talent. Most of you will not be able to become martial artists, but as long as you can become a martial apprentice, your future will be far brighter than that of ordinary people, and your chances of finding a job will be much higher. To become a martial apprentice, you must practice the body forging method. A middle-aged man was lecturing a group of students. The students below listened very attentively. They were all commoners, and the academy was their only channel to learn the body forging method. If they didn't listen carefully, practicing it incorrectly would not only fail to improve their strength, but could even damage their bodies. Ye Tian was among them. He had entered the 5th Academy and had been studying here for 10 days. During these 10 days, the middle-aged teacher taught the body forging method every day and personally demonstrated its 18 movements. Perhaps due to his transmigration, Ye Tian's soul was stronger than average, and his memory was also quite good. Consequently, he had mastered the 18 movements of the body forging method in just 10 short days, ensuring he wouldn't make any mistakes. As for the other students, it would be difficult for them to completely master the body forging method without a month or two. Of course, hiring a private tutor was a different story, but the price of a private tutor was not something a commoner could afford. The body forging method must be fully mastered before formal cultivation can begin. This is the first movement. The middle-aged teacher demonstrated the movements of the body forging method one by one. An hour passed, the teaching ended, and the students left one after another. Ye Tian, how is your learning going? I've already mastered 13 movements and will be able to cultivate the body forging method soon. A chubby boy stopped Ye Tian and said excitedly. The chubby boy's name was Zhang Bao. He was a classmate Ye Tian had met during his 10 days at the academy, and they had a decent relationship. I've only mastered 8 movements, Ye Tian said intentionally. He didn't want to say he had already mastered all 18 movements, otherwise it would surely cause unnecessary trouble. Having just arrived in this era, it was best to keep a low profile. Keep it up, I believe you can do it. We will definitely become powerful martial artists in the future, Zhang Bao encouraged him. But from the depths of Zhang Bao's eyes, Ye Tian saw a hint of helplessness, even despair. Perhaps, Ye Tian smiled. He had viewed Zhang Bao's talent through his copy talent. Although it was better than his own, it was only a lesser talent. With such talent, there was hope of becoming a martial artist, but it was unknown how much time and resources it would take. Zhang Bao was not a child of a great family, but from an ordinary family, which simply lacked the ability to let him cultivate in peace indefinitely. Zhang Bao's ultimate fate would likely be a martial apprentice, followed by finding a stable job and slowly growing old, or dying in some future vicious beast tide. Zhang Bao, who is the most talented person in our academy? Ye Tian asked in a low voice. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. He had only been at the academy for 10 days, while Zhang Bao had been there for over a month. Moreover, Zhang Bao was naturally friendly and had good relations with many people, so he definitely knew more news. The most talented. Zhang Bao didn't know why Ye Tian was asking, but he still said, "Talent is a very private thing, and no one will reveal it. However, it can be seen from daily cultivation progress. Our 5th academy isn't some major academy in coastal base. Those with real talent all go to the 1st academy, but our academy actually does have a genius." "Who?" Ye Tian asked curiously. "Chen Dong," Zhang Bao said mysteriously. Chen Dong also comes from an ordinary family. His parents are normal people. He came to our 5th academy a month ago, and in just half a month he became a martial apprentice. Then he was taken as a disciple by our dean. Now that Chen Dong no longer cultivates with the other students, but is taught privately by the dean. Whoosh, an excited light suddenly flashed in Ye Tian's eyes. He was certain that Chen Dong's talent was absolutely good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been taken as a disciple by the dean of the 5th academy. One must know that the dean of the 5th academy was an elite martial artist at the peak realm, with strength far exceeding that of an ordinary peak martial artist. To the dean, ordinary martial artists were like ants. In coastal base, the dean of the 5th academy was definitely a top-tier figure. Mere elementary talent would certainly not be valued by the dean. A genius who could be valued by the dean must at least have medium-tier talent, because only those with medium-tier talent were certain to become elite martial artists and have the hope of becoming a great martial artist. How can I get in touch with Chen Dong? Ye Tian pondered. Just then, a wave of commotion broke out. Chen Dong is here. Heavens, that Chen Dong, who was taken as a disciple by the dean, has actually appeared in our training ground. No. 3. Isn't he being taught privately by the dean? Why did he come to our training ground? The students looked at Chen Dong with eyes full of envy or jealousy. After all, this was an era that valued talent, and Chen Dong was a figure they could never reach in their lifetimes. Ye Tian also noticed Chen Dong at this time and slowly approached. Without attracting notice, he got within 3 meters of Chen Dong and then instantly activated his copy talent, human. Chen Dong cultivation talent. Medium tier as expected. It's medium tier talent. Ye Tian suppressed the excitement in his heart, his eyes flashing as he secretly planned. Chen Dong, I heard you were taken as a disciple by the dean. What level has your current strength reached? A student asked, looking at Chen Dong with admiration. I already possess 200 katas of force. Chen Dong held his head high, full of pride. Hiss. A chorus of gasps erupted from the surroundings. To become a martial apprentice, one only needs to possess 100 katas of force, and Chen Dong hadn't been a martial apprentice for long, yet he already possessed 200 katas of force. At this rate, wouldn't Chen Dong become a martial artist very soon? Showing off, Ye Tian finally understood why Chen Dong had come here. Clearly, Chen Dong couldn't resist coming out to show off as soon as he had achieved a bit of progress in his cultivation. It was just like the mentality of a nouveau rich. Chen Dong, can you give me an autograph? Chen Dong, can I have an autograph too? Students took out paper and pens, hoping Chen Dong would give them an autograph. Once they had the autograph of a future martial artist, it would be a kind of glory. If Chen Dong became an elite martial artist like the dean in the future, such an autograph might even sell for several months' worth of living expenses for an ordinary person. All right, I'll give you all autographs. Chen Dong was feeling a bit lightheaded with pride and didn't refuse anyone, signing for the other students one by one. Ye Tian also squeezed in, but he wasn't there to ask for an autograph. He was there to copy talent. Touched him. At the moment his hand touched Chen Dong's left hand, Ye Tian copied Chen Dong's cultivation talent and then swiftly withdrew his arm. The entire process went completely unnoticed by others. After all, in this situation, it was perfectly normal to bump into Chen Dong. Medium-tier cultivation talent copied successfully. Integrate. Reminder. The website will be updated soon, which may cause loss of reading progress. Please save your bookshelf and reading record in time. Screenshot recommended. We apologize for any inconvenience. Talent Transformation, Chapter 4. Talent Transformation. Initiate fusion. Ye Tian didn't dare to fuse right now, as he didn't know what kind of reaction it would trigger. It was better to do it somewhere deserted. The academy's management was loose, completely indifferent to whether students stayed or left. Even skipping school was fine. In fact, once they learned the body forging method, students basically cultivated on their own. After all, the academy teachers didn't have the leisure to personally guide every student's training. This was the current state of the fifth academy. Things would be vastly different at the first academy. Strictly speaking, the first academy was the only true academy. The others were merely glorified martial arts halls. Returning home, his younger sister Yi Yu was reading books to learn about the martial Tao. Those books were left behind by their parents, and Yi Yu read them whenever she was free to prepare for her martial training in 2 years. Ye Tian walked into his bedroom alone and locked the door. Fuse. Boom. An inexplicable force acted upon Ye Tian's body, washing through him from head to toe. Pain, boundless agony flooded his mind, and his entire body felt as if it were about to explode. Damn it, I didn't expect fusing a copied talent to be this painful. Ye Tian cursed inwardly. However, even if he had known it would be this painful, he wouldn't have hesitated to fuse. This was a heaven-defying change of his aptitude, akin to being reborn. What was a little pain compared to that? Brother, what's wrong? Yi Yu seemed to have noticed something and asked softly from outside the door. It's nothing. Ye Tian gritted his teeth and shouted back. He didn't dare let out a cry of pain, as he wouldn't be able to explain it. Fortunately, the pain came and went quickly. 10 minutes later, the agony in Ye Tian's body gradually dissipated, replaced by a wave of comfort so intense it rivaled the pleasure of intimacy. Of course, Ye Tian didn't forget the most important thing. He immediately checked his talent status. Human, Ye Tian cultivation talent, medium tier. Seeing the information on the virtual screen, Ye Tian couldn't help but get excited. It was finally no longer a weak talent. This meant his aptitude had truly changed, and it meant he had a limitless future. Martial artist, elite martial artist, and great martial artist were no longer his limits. As long as he continued to fuse new talents, he would definitely become an existence beyond a great martial artist in the future. 1 month. I need 1 more month before I can copy another talent. This was the information Ye Tian gained from his copy talent. In other words, a month later, he could copy another talent. First, let's test the cultivation speed brought by a medium-tier talent. Ye Tian couldn't wait to try it out. Actually, after initially mastering the 18 movements of the body forging method yesterday, he couldn't help but try it. Unfortunately, the effect was very faint. He only felt a slight numbness throughout his body. If not for his powerful soul, he wouldn't have felt it at all. Precisely because the sensation was so shallow, he had gone to attend the lecture again today, wanting to know if he had practiced incorrectly. Regrettably, he hadn't practiced incorrectly at all. It simply meant his cultivation speed was slow to a certain degree, Without long-term training, there was no effect. Without the copy talent, there would have been no hope of him becoming a martial apprentice, even after a year of training with his original aptitude. First movement. Second movement. Ye Tian performed the movements of the body forging method in his room. These movements looked very strange, yet they were the optimal basic body forging method developed through countless human trials. It took half an hour to complete all 18 movements, and only by performing the full set could one achieve the body tempering effect. Soon, half an hour passed, and Ye Tian had perfectly executed the 18 movements. As the 18th movement was completed, a surge of heat suddenly erupted within Ye Tian's body. This heat slowly flowed to every part of his body, tempering his physique. This heat was the latent potential of the human body, and the body forging method was an effective way to develop that potential. However, overdeveloping one's potential could harm the body. Thus, the experience summarized by countless people was that one could practice the body forging method at most 10 times a day, and no more than 3 times in a single session. As expected of a medium-tier talent, the cultivation effect is 100 times stronger than yesterday's weak talent. No wonder Chen Dong became a martial apprentice in just half a month, and possessed 200 jin of strength in a month. Ye Tian was very satisfied with the medium-tier talent, but he also knew there were even higher talents above it. The progress speed of those geniuses was something he currently couldn't even imagine. Therefore, he had to work hard and then harder still. Once the heat from the first round of the body forging method was almost exhausted, Ye Tian continued with the second round. After completing 3 consecutive rounds, Ye Tian's body was covered in sweat and faint black impurities. Ye Tian first took a shower and then ate about a dozen buns. Practicing the body forging method consumed a lot of energy, so one had to eat more to replenish it. 1 month later. In a small grove at the 5th Academy, it was now close to dusk, and the place was deserted. Ye Tian was cultivating here. This was a place he frequently came to train. Today's 10 rounds of the body forging method are finished. Ye Tian finished his movements and walked toward training ground No. 3. There were many stones on the training ground. Some were 100 jin, some 200, and even some 300. Holding 100 jin stone above one's head for 3 seconds signified possessing 100 jin of strength. If one lifted a 200 jin stone, it meant 200 jin of strength. This was the simplest testing method. As early as the 8th day of practicing the body forging method, Ye Tian had already attained 100 jin of strength and stepped into the rank of a martial apprentice. I should be able to lift the 200 jin stone today. Chen Dong had the principal's guidance, so his cultivation speed was fast. But I'm not bad either. My talent is a medium-tier talent formed from the fusion of a medium tier and a weak talent, so theoretically, I'm slightly stronger than Chen Dong. Plus, over this past month, I haven't wasted a single moment, completing all 10 rounds of the body forging method every day. The more you practice the body forging method, the more painful it becomes. Most people might not be able to finish all 10 rounds. With Chen Dong's personality, I bet he manages 7 or 8 at most. So my progress isn't necessarily slower than his, maybe I'm even faster. Ye Tian thought to himself. After resting for a while and mostly recovering his strength, he walked over to the 200 jin stone. Up, with a surge of strength in his arms, he hugged the stone at his feet and hoisted it up with force. When the 200 jin stone cleared his head, he held it for 3 seconds before dropping it and collapsing onto the ground, his strength spent. He knew he now possessed 200 jin of strength. This is a good start. With my medium-tier talent aptitude, I might have hope of becoming a martial artist within a year. Ye Tian clenched his fists in anticipation. After resting for over 10 minutes, the sky gradually darkened. Ye Tian left the academy and headed home. Walking along the street, shops were still open, and the entire base was dimly lit. Electricity no longer existed in this era. It was said that some powerful bases could use Yuan Kai to replace electricity, creating many miraculous devices and recreating the glory of the pre-apocalyptic era. But those were large bases. A small base like Coastal Base didn't have such capabilities. Everyone used oil lamps or candles. Standing in such a street, Ye Tian felt as if he had returned to ancient times. Suddenly, a vicious beast. Run for your lives. A vicious beast is here. Fear and panic flooded the street. Friendly reminder. The website will be updated soon, which may cause loss of reading progress. Please save your bookshelf and reading records in time. Screenshots are recommended. We apologize for any inconvenience caused. Copying a talent from a vicious beast. Chapter 5. Copying a talent from a vicious beast. A vicious beast. Ye Tian was also stunned. He had never seen a vicious beast, but rumors said they were terrifying. They could easily slaughter ordinary people, and only martial artists could deal with them. Outside the coastal base was a ring of city walls, but sometimes the walls couldn't stop vicious beasts, and occasionally one would rush into the base. There was only one outcome when an ordinary person encountered a vicious beast: death. Hurry home. Ye Tian thought of his sister, Yu. This place wasn't far from home, and fragile walls were completely unable to withstand a vicious beast. He was extremely worried about his sister. While running, Ye Tian vaguely saw a silver-white shadow constantly darting through the end of the street. Ordinary people died one after another under the silver shadow's attack. What incredible speed! Ye Tian was shocked. Such speed had already surpassed the eye's reaction time. This was just watching from afar. If it were at close range, he might be killed by the vicious beast without even seeing a shadow. If I encounter this vicious beast, I will surely die, Ye Tian thought. He wouldn't foolishly think he was a protagonist who wouldn't die no matter what, and naturally, he wouldn't be so stupid as to fight the vicious beast. When facing an invincible situation, flee as quickly as possible. Ye Tian wasn't stupid, so he fled. Unfortunately, his speed was too slow compared to that vicious beast, and it seemed to be rushing in his direction. Ye Tian knew this vicious beast wasn't targeting him, but if they crossed paths, the beast certainly wouldn't mind extending a claw to kill him. Vile creature, how dare you kill people in the base? Led by a middle-aged man, several martial artists rushed over and soon surrounded the vicious beast. Great, it's the Wind Wolf Hunting Squad, someone shouted. The Wind Wolf Hunting Squad. Ye Tian knew the name of this hunting squad. It was a famous one in this area. The squad leader had the title Wind Wolf and was an expert at the late stage of the martial artist realm. Under him were over 10 martial artists at the early stage or middle stage. Seeing the Wind Wolf Hunting Squad arrive, many people breathed a sigh of relief and even started watching the spectacle. Quickly, get back. This vicious beast isn't simple, Captain Wind Wolf roared at the onlookers. Hearing Captain Wind Wolf's shout, many people finally realized that a battle between martial artists and vicious beasts was not something to watch casually. One careless move could lead to death at the hands of the beast, and the martial artists might not even have time to save them. Retreat. 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 Everyone backed away, and Ye Tian also retreated far back, but he didn't leave. He also really wanted to know what the combat power of the martial artist level was like. Soon, the battle began. Captain Windwolf's blade slashed toward the vicious beast. The blade light was dazzling in the night, its power clearly extraordinary. The stone slabs on the street were carved with a 3-meter-long blade mark under Captain Windwolf's strike. Unfortunately, the vicious beast was too fast and dodged the attack. What a powerful attack. Even the hard street slabs were sliced open. If that hit a person, they would probably be split in half instantly. Is this the power of a martial artist? Ye Tian felt a sense of longing. The martial artists of the Wind Wolf Hunting Squad all drew their weapons and began fighting the vicious beast, but their expressions were solemn. Suddenly, a martial artist was swatted away by the vicious beast, leaving a bloodstain on his chest. Xiao Bai. Captain Windwolf glanced over worriedly, but didn't check on Xiao Bai's injuries. Instead, he attacked the vicious beast. Although the vicious beast had severely injured one martial artist, there were many surrounding it, and it was soon wounded. Watch out, the beast is trying to escape. Captain Windwolf shouted. Sure enough, seeing things were going badly, the vicious beast turned into a streak of silver light and broke through the encirclement, attempting to flee into the distance. Just then, an arrow shot from afar and hit the vicious beast. Then, with a boom, the vicious beast collapsed on the street, its form fully exposed. It's a silver marten, Ye Tian saw it clearly. This silver marten was 1 meter long, had sharp claws and blood-red eyes. This silver moon mink has been severely injured by Xiaoyu. Everyone, push harder and kill it. We won't have to go out and hunt vicious beasts for a month, Captain Wind Wolf said excitedly. Clearly, this silver moon mink was worth a lot. The heavily injured silver moon mink was clearly no match for the Wind Wolf hunting squad, but it didn't seem to have given up hope. Suddenly, a silver radiance erupted from its body, and its aura suddenly surged. Careful, it's stimulating its bloodline and getting ready to erupt. Captain Wind Wolf roared, warning the others. Swish, swish, swish. The martial artists quickly backed away a bit to avoid being taken down with the silver moon mink, but suddenly the silver moon mink rushed toward the crowd. The expressions of all the martial artists changed drastically. They understood the silver moon mink's plan. Everyone, scatter, Captain Wind Wolf shouted to the crowd in the distance. Unfortunately, the silver moon mink was too fast. With its bloodline stimulated, its speed had reached a new level. Far beyond what these ordinary people could dodge in the blink of an eye, the silver moon mink crashed into the crowd. Without any moves, just a simple collision sent ordinary people flying, their fates unknown. Suddenly, another arrow shot out, fired by Xiaoyu, the member of the Wind Wolf hunting squad hiding in the shadows. Puchai. The arrow entered the silver moon mink's body, piercing through its existing wound. The already dying silver moon mink finally died, its life force gradually fading away. At this point, many people fled, not daring to approach the silver moon mink. However, a young man walked toward the silver moon mink and gently touched its skin. Young man, you've got a lot of nerve, daring to touch a vicious beast. Captain Wind Wolf walked over and laughed heartily. It's my first time seeing a vicious beast, so I couldn't help but touch it out of curiosity, the young man said awkwardly. Captain Wind Wolf nodded with satisfaction. Not bad, kid. I see you're already a martial apprentice. Being a martial apprentice at this age, you might have hope of becoming a martial artist. Once you become a martial artist, I'll allow you to join our squad. Thank you, Captain Wind Wolf, the young man said excitedly. The Wind Wolf hunting squad didn't stay long. They carried away the silver moon mink's corpse and left one by one. But the young man who had been chatting with Captain Wind Wolf stood alone on the street, smiling foolishly. Others who saw this thought he had gone crazy. Becoming a martial artist was not that easy. Captain Wind Wolf's words were just polite talk. However, the reason the young man was smiling was not because of Captain Wind Wolf's words. This young man was none other than Ye Tian. Haha, I didn't expect the second talent I copied would actually come from a vicious beast, Ye Tian said excitedly. Friendly reminder, the website will be redesigned soon, which may cause loss of reading progress. Please save your bookshelf and reading history in time. Screenshots are suggested. We apologize for any inconvenience. Threefold speed increase. Chapter 6. Threefold speed increase. Seeking flowers when the silver moon sable died. It was less than 3 meters away from Ye Tian. At that moment, Ye Tian was extremely panicked. Fortunately, the silver moon sable died. Otherwise, he would very likely have been killed by it. In short, he was lucky. Seeing that the silver moon sable was dead, he had a sudden thought and activated his copy talent on it to take a look. Vicious Beast, Silver Moon Sable Bloodline Talent, Inferior Speed Talent. Elementary. Seeing this talent, Ye Tian was truly shocked. Vicious beasts mainly rely on their bloodline to evolve, just like humans rely on their cultivation talent. Without a powerful bloodline, they cannot become powerful vicious beasts. The Silver Moon Sable only had an inferior bloodline talent. In terms of realm, it was at most equivalent to an early-stage martial artist, yet it could easily severely injure a martial artist, and even make a late-stage martial artist like Captain Wind Wolf feel troubled. It relied on its other talent, speed talent. Possessing the speed talent made the Silver Moon Sable an incredibly terrifying vicious beast. Otherwise, ordinary low-level vicious beasts, which were equivalent to the martial artist level, would not have been able to withstand the siege of so many martial artists. At this moment, once Ye Tian, who had already copied the speed talent, fused with it, His future speed would far exceed those of the same rank, and fighting across ranks would no longer be a dream. Heading home, Ye Tian ran back in the direction of his home. Upon returning home, Ye Tian had dinner with his younger sister, and then returned to his room alone, preparing to attempt the fusion of the talent. Under normal circumstances, talents other than cultivation talent would only slowly undergo awakening at the martial artist level, but my copy talent can break this rule. I should be able to safely undergo fusion with the speed talent, Ye Tian speculated. Whatever fusion. Ye Tian bit down on a piece of cloth and began the fusion. Boom. Pain, second only to the fusion of the medium-tier cultivation talent, flooded into his mind. Having been mentally prepared, Ye Tian endured it completely. 10 minutes later, the pain vanished, and a wave of pleasure surged into his heart. Ye Tian knew that he had successfully completed the fusion of the speed talent. With a thought, he checked his talent status. Human, Ye Tian cultivation talent, medium-tier speed talent. Elementary because he was too tired, coupled with the vicious beast attack he had just experienced, Ye Tian gradually fell into a deep sleep, exhausted both mentally and physically. Early the next morning, Ye Tian couldn't wait to go to the academy's small woods. At this time, there was no one there. Let's test the speed talent. Ye Tian immediately activated the speed talent. His figure moved and he rushed into the distance like an afterimage. Such fast speed. Ye Tian was shocked. After repeated testing, he finally confirmed that his speed had increased threefold. Just an elementary talent gave him such speed, almost comparable to that of an average martial artist. Moreover, as his cultivation increased, his speed would naturally become faster and faster. Legend says that humans who possess multiple talents are the darlings of the world, and it is indeed true. I have only just acquired one elementary speed talent, and I am probably already capable of crushing most martial apprentices. At this rate, it won't be long before I can contend with martial artists. Ye Tian was incredibly excited, but he was also very clear that the true foundation was still cultivation. Without powerful cultivation to support it, having more talents would be in vain, and it would be difficult to compare with true powerhouses. I still have 1 month before I can copy a new talent. The goal for this month is to temper my body and push for 300 jin of strength. Ye Tian set a small goal for himself. With a goal, Ye Tian cultivated even harder. Moreover, he had also initially revealed to other students that he could practice the body forging method. After all, many students in his cohort could also practice it, so he didn't attract too much attention. Outside of cultivation, Ye Tian also checked the talents of all the students in the 5th Academy, but there were basically no good talents. Except for Chen Dong, the best talent was only elementary. Soon, a month passed, and Ye Tian achieved his small goal as wished, possessing 300 jin of strength. The speed is still too slow. If only I could increase my cultivation speed faster, Ye Tian sighed. Walking on the road leaving the academy, a voice came. Ye Tian, wait for me. Ye Tian looked back and found it was Zhang Bao, so he stopped. Ye Tian, you've become a martial apprentice, right? Zhang Bao asked in a low voice. Yes, Ye Tian nodded. Becoming a martial apprentice was not difficult. There was nothing to hide about this, as long as he didn't reveal that he had 300 jin of strength. Ye Tian, do you want to increase your cultivation speed faster? Zhang Bao asked hurriedly. You have a way. Ye Tian was shocked. Have you heard of vicious beast blood? Zhang Bao said. Of course I have, Ye Tian nodded. His parents were also martial artists, so naturally, he knew many situations that ordinary people didn't know from his parents. Vicious beast blood contained powerful energy. If one consumed vicious beast blood while practicing the body forging method, it could accelerate the tempering of the body. Unfortunately, his parents were gone, and he had no way to get vicious beast blood. Ye Tian, our talents aren't too good. If we cultivate step by step, we only have hope of advancing to the martial artist level when we are old, but having vicious beast blood is different. Maybe by the age of 20, we will have the hope of stepping into the martial artist level. By then, even if we are limited by our talent and unable to improve our cultivation, we can still live a good life by relying on our martial artist strength, Zhang Bao said. That's true, but we have no way to get vicious beast blood, Ye Tian said helplessly. He also wanted to get vicious beast blood, but he had no way to do so. Ye Tian, we have a good relationship. That's why I'm telling you. The 5 major academies of the coastal base are preparing to launch a trial. The higher-ups of the coastal base have opened up a small wilderness area in the wilds. The vicious beasts inside have all been killed, leaving only some ferocious beasts. Ferocious beasts are descendants of vicious beasts. Their cultivation does not reach the vicious beast level, and even ordinary people holding weapons can deal with them at the martial apprentice realm. Once you kill a ferocious beast and take the valuable items from its body, you can exchange them for vicious beast blood. I heard that the first place even gets an intermediate vicious beast blood reward. As Zhang Bao spoke, he became envious. Intermediate vicious beast blood. Ye Tian was also tempted. An intermediate vicious beast was a powerful vicious beast that only an elite martial artist could kill. Once he had intermediate vicious beast blood, he would have the hope of becoming a martial artist within half a year. How do you know? Ye Tian frowned. He hadn't received any notice, Zhang Bao said triumphantly. I know an old student who has 500 jin of strength. I heard it from him. It's just that this trial is a bit dangerous, so the academy didn't notify students who just became martial apprentices. Ye Tian, I know the benefits of vicious beast blood better than you. My talent isn't good, but some time ago, my parents spent most of their savings and used connections to buy a portion of low-level vicious beast blood. Now, relying on that low-level vicious beast blood, I have become a martial apprentice. Your talent is better than mine. Once you have vicious beast blood, the absorption effect will be better, and your cultivation speed will be faster. Let's sign up together and form a team for the trial. There is definitely hope to obtain a portion of vicious beast blood. Zhang Bao tempted. Zhang Bao, you didn't just invite me, did you? Ye Tian asked. Of course I didn't just invite you. We have just stepped into the martial apprentice level. If we don't group up, how can we compete with those powerful martial apprentices? I have already asked 8 martial apprentices and they have all agreed. I'm just waiting for you. Zhang Bao showed a look that said, follow me and you definitely won't go wrong. Sorry, I don't really want to group up. Ye Tian refused. All right then. Zhang Bao showed a look of regret and turned to leave. He was just asking. If Ye Tian refused, so be it. Anyway, Ye Tian had just become a martial apprentice, so he wasn't of much use. However, what Zhang Bao didn't expect was that Ye Tian wasn't refusing to participate in the trial, but simply didn't want to group up. The trial might be a chance for me, Ye Tian muttered. Chapter 7. Participating in the trial first update. Student Ye Tian, do you really want to sign up for the trial? Although you only need to reach the martial apprentice level to participate, it is best for a martial apprentice without 500 jin of strength not to participate. Otherwise, it is very easy to die in the trial. Teacher Yu Cheng of the 5th Academy looked at Ye Tian before him and tried to dissuade him. He had seen several students like Ye Tian who always thought they were lucky and would obtain vicious beast blood. But they didn't stop to think that even if that small wilderness area had no vicious beasts, some powerful wild beasts were enough to kill most martial apprentices. Students who had just become martial apprentices were like ants in front of powerful wild beasts unless they relied on numbers or powerful weapons. Teacher, I have already formed a group. By relying on numbers, I should have a chance to obtain a good harvest. Ye Tian said this deliberately. All right then, it's your own business anyway, but if you sign up, you need to sign a life and death contract. Once the contract is signed, even if you die in the small wilderness area, our 5th Academy will not provide any compensation. Teacher Yu Cheng reminded him. I know. Ye Tian signed the contract very calmly. Come to the Academy's 5 martial arts practice field before 8 o'clock in the morning 10 days from now. A teacher will take you there, Teacher Yu Cheng instructed. Yes, teacher, Ye Tian replied. Having successfully signed up, Ye Tian breathed a sigh of relief. He did not want to waste the next 10 days. Although he was confident in his own strength, his power was still weak after all, and he needed to make some preparations. For example, buying weapons and equipment. In this era, there are no restrictions on weapons, and anyone can carry them at any time. Weapons are divided into several levels. For example, Weapons made of ordinary steel are called ordinary weapons, while weapons made using some origin power materials are very suitable for the circulation of a martial artist's origin power, and such weapons are called origin weapons. Ye Tian could not afford an origin weapon, nor was there any need to buy one. The quality of an ordinary origin weapon was similar to an ordinary weapon, it just had the added characteristic of origin power. Going to a weapon shop, Ye Tian bought a blade made of refined iron, as well as a bow and some arrows. These weapons cost Ye Tian 5,000 yuan, which was his entire year's expenses. Originally, Ye Tian only had 20,000 yuan, and now only 15,000 yuan remained, but purchasing these weapons was necessary. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. Ye Tian did not mention the trial to his younger sister, Ye Yu. He just told her that the academy had organized an activity that would take 3 days, and he would return after 3 days. Ye Yu naturally did not think too much about it. Otherwise, she would definitely not have allowed Ye Tian to go to the small wilderness area for the trial, 5th Academy, no, 5 martial arts practice field. When Ye Tian arrived, he saw nearly 100 students. Clearly, this was not all of them. He estimated that there were at least 150 students participating in the trial, perhaps even more. It seems the attraction of vicious beast blood is too strong. For students with low talent, it is their hope, Ye Tian thought to himself. Ye Tian, aren't you not coming? Zhang Bao's voice came over. Ye Tian looked at Zhang Bao and said indifferently, I didn't say I wasn't coming, I just didn't want to form a team. Could it be that you found an expert to take you? Zhang Bao was shocked. Ye Tian did not speak, maintaining his silence. Zhang Bao's eyes became envious, obviously thinking that Ye Tian had found an expert, which was why he didn't want to team up with them. Regarding Zhang Bao's overthinking, Ye Tian did not explain. The misunderstanding was actually better. After waiting for about half an hour, the students had basically all arrived, totaling about 160 students. These 160 students basically all had secondary talent, and their ages were mostly quite old, with some even in their 20s. Young apprentices like Ye Tian were rare. After all, being young represented low strength. With so many students, perhaps many would not return, but in this era without strength, one could die at any moment. For example, the Silver Moon Sable incident a while ago affected many ordinary people. It was truly a case of disaster striking at home. Only strength is everything. Since everyone is here, get on the bus, a teacher shouted at the students. Soon, several buses similar to those from his previous life appeared before the many students. All the students were seeing a car for the first time. Previously, they could only see these pre-apocalyptic cars in textbooks. Teacher, hasn't the rules of the world changed greatly now? Can't the cars from 100 years ago no longer be used? A student asked curiously. This is a newly developed bus, powered by origin power. It is technology that the higher-ups of Coastal Base exchanged from a great base. It has just been launched. Only martial artists are qualified to purchase cars. I believe that soon you will be able to see all kinds of cars on the street, the teacher replied. A car powered by origin power, a group of students suddenly realized. Some of them had heard of such origin power equipment, but they didn't expect Coastal Base to have them too. The group of students got on the bus, and it drove toward the outside of the base. An hour later, the bus passed a city gate and drove toward the wilderness. Upon entering the wilderness, many students were a bit panicked. The wilderness had many vicious beasts, and these martial apprentices had no power to resist when facing vicious beasts. Rest assured, not long ago, the important figures of Coastal Base cleared this area of the wilderness. There won't be any vicious beasts within a radius of 3 miles, and our destination is a small wilderness area 1 mile away. The lead teacher said with a smile. Hearing the teacher say this, the students breathed a sigh of relief. Moreover, there were over 10 teachers protecting them across several buses, and every teacher had the cultivation of a martial artist, so safety could be guaranteed. Not long after, a valley appeared before everyone. This valley is our destination, the teacher introduced. Many buses were parked at the entrance of the valley. They were the cars of other academies. It's the students from the 5th Academy. Haha, this trash academy sent people here too. Could it be they want to be wiped out? The students from the 5th Academy probably haven't even seen blood, right? Unlike us from the 1st Academy, where teachers capture wild beasts or even weak, vicious beasts for us to practice on, our combat power is not something the students of the 5th Academy can compare to. I guess they might even cry in fear when they see a wild beast. Although the students of the 5th Academy are no good, the dean of the 5th Academy is a big shot in the coastal base. Let's mock them less. If we offend the dean of the 5th Academy, we won't have a good time. These mocking students were naturally all students from the 1st Academy. As for the students of other academies, they were not much better than the 5th Academy, so they had no qualifications to mock them. Damn it, these students from the 1st Academy are too arrogant, many students from the 5th Academy said angrily. But they only dared to talk about it. They didn't dare to actually reason with the students from the 1st Academy, as they knew the gap between themselves and the others. After getting off the bus, Ye Tian stared intently at the students from the 1st Academy. The students of the 1st Academy have at least elementary talent, and I might encounter students with medium-tier talent. My copy talent can be used again. This time, I might be able to copy a good talent. Chapter 8. Medium-tier Saber Talent Second Update. Asking for 10-point rating votes, the students from the 5 academies had all arrived, gathering at the valley entrance, waiting for the trial to begin. Ye Tian wandered around, appearing to be strolling, but he was secretly using his copy talent to check others' talents. His main targets were the students from the 1st Academy. Elementary Cultivation Talent, Elementary Cultivation Talent, Elementary Cultivation Talent. After walking a circle, Ye Tian discovered that most of the 1st Academy students had elementary talents. There weren't many students from the 1st Academy, just over 30. There are only 5 people left. Ye Tian looked at those 5 people and slowly walked over. Once Ye Tian was within 3 meters, he used his talent to check them one by one. Good heavens, they are all medium-tier cultivation talent. Ye Tian was surprised. Clearly, these 5 were the seed students of the 1st Academy. Their cultivation had perhaps already reached the peak realm of martial apprentice, only one step away from martial artist. Copying a medium-tier cultivation talent won't help my current strength much. At most, it would just make my medium-tier talent slightly better. But that won't help me in the trial. If I could copy a talent that assists in combat, that would be very useful, Ye Tian thought to himself. Unfortunately, after walking around, he only found a few weak or subpar attribute talents, but they were all in an unawakened state and could not be copied at all. Suddenly, a youth carrying a saber walked up to the 5 1st Academy students who possessed medium-tier cultivation talent. Mo Xiaobei, I want to challenge you. The youth held his saber and pointed it horizontally at the student named Mo Xiaobei. This youth. Ye Tian looked at this youth with some surprise. This youth was a student from the 2nd Academy. To actually dare to challenge a genius with medium-tier cultivation talent from the 1st Academy, he had a lot of nerve. I wonder what talent he has. Ye Tian was a bit curious. He hadn't really checked the 2nd Academy students, thinking there was no need. But since this youth dared to challenge a genius with medium-tier cultivation talent, he must have some tricks up his sleeve. Thus, Ye Tian walked over. The youth was indifferent to Ye Tian's actions, only staring at Mo Xiaobei. Lai Yunxing, I heard you are called the #1 saber technique genius of the 2nd Academy, but no matter how strong your saber technique is, it cannot make up for the gap in strength. I currently possess 990 Jin of force, while you only have 200 Jin. You lost last time, do you want to lose again? Mo Xiaobei mocked. HMPH, I have 300 Jin of force now, Lai Yunxing quickly said. Heh, is there any difference between 200 Jin and 300 Jin in front of 990 Jin of force? Mo Xiaobei said with disdain. The other 4 geniuses with medium-tier cultivation talent also looked at Lai Yunxing with contempt. They knew Lai Yunxing's situation well. Even if he cultivated for a lifetime, he would at most be an early-stage martial artist. He had no qualifications to compare with them. How could such trash deserve their attention? Lai Yunxing was unconvinced and was about to force a move. Fighting is not allowed here, Violators will lose their trial qualification. The voice came from a teacher. Lai Yunxing looked at the teacher with fear, put away his saber, and dared not provoke any further. This trial was an opportunity for him, and he didn't want to lose this chance because of an impulse, so he turned and left. "This friend, I truly admire your saber technique. Can we be friends?" Ye Tian walked over with a sincere expression and extended his right hand in friendship. "Who are you?" Lai Yunxing was a bit confused, but still subconsciously shook hands with Ye Tian. "My name is Ye Tian," Ye Tian said. Immediately after chattering a bunch of things, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a bewildered Lai Yunxing. As Ye Tian walked away, the scene he had just seen appeared in his mind. Human, Lai Yunxing cultivation talent, subpar saber talent, medium tier. Crucially, the saber talent, like the cultivation talent, was innate and therefore could be copied. Thus, Ye Tian gave his copy opportunity to the saber talent. If he didn't copy it, and Lai Yunxing happened to die during this trial, he wouldn't have a chance to copy it. Therefore, he copied the medium-tier saber talent without hesitation. Walking behind a rock, seeing that no one was paying attention to this side, Ye Tian immediately began the fusion of the medium-tier saber talent. Boom! A sharp pain came, and his whole body was being transformed by a force. 10 minutes later, the pain disappeared. With a thought, Ye Tian checked his talent status. Human, Ye Tian cultivation talent, medium-tier speed talent, elementary saber talent, medium-tier saber technique. Ye Tian picked up his saber and immediately felt different. In the past, the saber felt dead in his hands, but now it felt as if it had come alive. With a light swing, an inexplicable realization surged into his heart. He seemed to know how to execute this slash to unleash the maximum lethality. So this is the terror of medium-tier saber talent. Even without speed talent, with the boost from the medium-tier saber talent, I am enough to fight some martial apprentices with 400 or 500 jin of force. It's a pity there's no time to learn a real saber technique secret manual. Ye Tian felt that if he learned a saber technique secret manual, he could definitely increase his combat strength significantly more. However, he was very satisfied with the medium-tier saber talent, feeling that this copy was very worthwhile. Wiping the sweat off, Ye Tian returned to the crowd. Not long after, the trial began. Everyone was very serious about this trial, and so was Ye Tian. The first place gets 3 portions of intermediate vicious beast blood, plus 100,000 yuan. The second place gets 1 portion of intermediate vicious beast blood, and 100,000 yuan. The third place gets 3 portions of elementary vicious beast blood, plus 50,000 yuan. The reward for 4th to 10th place is 1 portion of elementary vicious beast blood. The ranking is based on points. For every type of beast, one only needs to cut off the specified part to bring it back and exchange it for points. The trial time is 3 days, and one must stay in the small wilderness area for these 3 days. For a group of martial apprentices, this trial was undoubtedly a challenge. All martial apprentices enter the trial wilderness area in order, a teacher said. Swish, swish, swish. The students of the first academy entered the valley first, gradually disappearing into the trial, followed by the students of the second academy, then the students of the third academy, and finally the students of the 5th academy. Can't see anyone anymore. Ye Tian had just entered the trial wilderness area when, separated by trees and the uneven, winding terrain, he soon couldn't see the other students. Although the trial wilderness area was only a small wilderness area that had been cleared out, its area was also very huge, no smaller than the coastal base. And Ye Tian soon encountered the first beast news of the Pseudo-Vicious Beast Chapter 9. News of the Pseudo-Vicious Beast 3rd Update. Fierce Beast, Spotted Snake. Ye Tian stared at a 2-meter-long giant snake 5 meters in front of him. This kind of snake wasn't very strong, and an average apprentice could deal with it as long as they weren't coiled by it. Once coiled, even a martial apprentice with 400 or 500 pounds of force would be unable to break free. Swish! The spotted snake suddenly lunged forward, launching an attack at Ye Tian. Ye Tian didn't dodge. With his speed talent, dodging the spotted snake would be too easy, but it wasn't necessary. Clang! a flash of saber light, and the spotted snake's body froze before falling to the ground. It struggled for a moment before dying. If one looked closely, they could see that the snake had been sliced open at its fatal 7-inch mark. That was where Ye Tian's saber had cut. Too weak. Ye Tian shook his head. Immediately after, he took a pair of the spotted snake's eyes. It was one of the items required for the trial, proving he had killed a spotted snake and could be exchanged for 1 point. Spotted snakes were the most common fierce beasts in this small wilderness area. It was said that there used to be a vicious beast giant snake here, and these fierce beast spotted snakes were all descendants of that vicious beast's bloodline. One day, several elite martial artists joined forces to kill the vicious beast giant snake and then cleared out the other vicious beasts in this small wilderness area, turning it into what it is today. This piece of gossip was revealed by a teacher on the way. Its authenticity was unknown. In the blink of an eye, most of the day had passed, and night was about to fall. Not much of a harvest today. Ye Tian opened his bundle and counted carefully. The various fierce beast materials were only worth 23 points. For an average student, these points were quite good, but they were far from enough to compete for the top 3 or even make it into the top 10. Night was very dangerous because the human eye, affected by the darkness, struggled to spot certain fierce beasts. Therefore, it was best not to hunt at night, or one might easily become the hunted. There were mostly only spotted snakes in the trees, but as long as one was careful and paid attention to the surroundings, it wasn't easy to be attacked by them. Even if a spotted snake did come, Ye Tian's reaction and speed were sufficient to handle it. The night passed without incident. The next morning, Ye Tian roasted a rabbit, ate his fill, and continued hunting fierce beasts. At this time, he headed deeper into the small wilderness area, because only there could more powerful fierce beasts be found. Hunting one was worth 5 or 6 points, making it much easier to earn more points than in the outskirts. Help! Someone, please save us. Faint cries for help reached Ye Tian's ears. At the same time, they were accompanied by bursts of wolf howls. Has someone run into a wolf pack? Ye Tian thought to himself. After thinking for a moment, he dashed toward the direction of the wolf pack. It wasn't that he wanted to save these people, but wolves were worth a lot of points. Specifically, the fang wolves. One was worth 10 points, which was much more cost-effective than hunting ordinary fierce beasts. Before long, Ye Tian reached an open area. Not far away, about a dozen fang wolves were besieging 7 or 8 students, and several corpses already lay on the ground. Zhang Bao. Ye Tian saw one of the people. It was Zhang Bao, with whom he had a decent relationship. However, Zhang Bao was in a wretched state at the moment. He was bleeding, his face was pale, and he was waving an empty bow, clearly at his wit's end. Ye Tian felt that Zhang Bao and the others' predicament was quite normal. After all, Zhang Bao and his group were too weak. Even if they had a dozen people in a team, what of it? If they truly encountered a slightly stronger fierce beast, this number of people would be nothing more than a snack. Ye Tian had known long ago that this group had little hope of obtaining the vicious beast blood, but he hadn't said it outright. After all, everyone had their own inner desires. Holding his bow, Ye Tian aimed at a fang wolf and shot an arrow. Puchai. The arrow struck a fang wolf, but unfortunately it missed the vital spot. However, it still wounded the wolf. Awu. The fang wolves spotted Ye Tian and charged toward him. Not far away, Zhang Bao and the others also saw Ye Tian walking toward them. A glimmer of hope had initially ignited, but after seeing who it was clearly, they were filled with despair. Zhang Bao knew Ye Tian and his strength. He had only just become a martial apprentice, just like himself. Ye Tian, run. These fang wolves are not something you can handle, Zhang Bao shouted. This fatty isn't bad, he actually doesn't want to drag me down. Ye Tian felt a warmth in his heart and was now truly determined to save them. If Ye Tian were to unleash his full strength, he could kill these fang wolves in a short time, but doing so would undoubtedly raise many questions. Better hold back a little, Ye Tian thought to himself. The strength of a fang wolf was great, no weaker than a martial apprentice with 400 or 500 pounds of force. If he met them head-on, Ye Tian would undoubtedly suffer a slight disadvantage. Thus, Ye Tian made full use of the sharpness of his saber techniques and a bit of his speed. He maintained 1.5 times his speed while maneuvering around the fang wolves. With his medium-tier saber talent, he could accurately grasp the timing and deliver a fatal strike at the critical moment. PFFFT, the blade abruptly slashed across a fang wolf's neck, killing it in one blow. No matter how the fang wolves attacked, Ye Tian seemed to have precognition, always managing to dodge, and every time he struck with his saber, he would inevitably take the life of a fang wolf. Before long, the bodies of a dozen fang wolves lay on the ground. Ye Tian's body was also stained with some blood, the blood of the fang wolves. "Are you all okay?" Ye Tian sheathed his saber and looked at Zhang Bao and the others. "We're fine." Zhang Bao's pupils dilated, he swallowed hard and stammered. "I killed these fang wolves." "I'll be taking the wolf fangs, you don't mind, do you?" Ye Tian asked in a heavy voice. "We don't mind." The group shook their heads repeatedly. How could they dare to mind? Such a fierce pack of fang wolves had been wiped out by Ye Tian alone. Their lives had been saved by him. No matter how brainless they were, they wouldn't be so foolish as to demand a share of the wolf fangs. Wolf fangs were the only proof of killing a fang wolf. Of course, Ye Tian didn't need to take all the teeth. He only needed to take the 2 largest incisors from each fang wolf. With over a dozen wolf fangs, they filled a large bag when collected. Fortunately, Ye Tian's strength was a full 300 pounds, so carrying this on his back was nothing. A word of advice: you should leave as soon as possible. With your strength, it will be difficult to obtain the vicious beast blood reward. Don't throw your lives away. You only have one life, and there will be other chances to get vicious beast blood in the future, Ye Tian advised. After saying that, Ye Tian prepared to leave. At this moment, Zhang Bao's expression shifted. "Ye Tian, with your strength and the wolf fangs you got this time, getting a portion of vicious beast blood shouldn't be a problem. But you probably want a good ranking, right? I have some news I'm not sure if I should tell you. Speak." Ye Tian said curiously. "A pseudo-vicious beast spotted snake has appeared in the small wilderness area. The students from the first academy have gone to hunt it. That spotted snake is worth 500 points. Zhang Bao bit his lip and said. He didn't know if revealing this news to Ye Tian was a good or bad thing, but he told him anyway. What? A pseudo-vicious beast spotted snake? Ye Tian was completely shocked. More importantly, he was drawn in by those 500 points. If he could get the eyes of the pseudo-vicious beast spotted snake, first place in the trial would be guaranteed. Chapter 10. Vicious Beast Spotted Snake. Chapter 10. Vicious Beast Spotted Snake. Fourth update: is the news true? Ye Tian asked. It's true, Zhang Bao confirmed. We caught a glimpse from a distance earlier. The students of the first academy joined forces to deal with a 10-meter-long spotted snake, but unfortunately, they failed. Now, there are definitely even more students surrounding and attacking that spotted snake. In which direction? Ye Tian inquired. Southeast, Zhang Bao pointed in a direction. Swish. Ye Tian ran off quickly and soon disappeared from sight. At this moment, Zhang Bao looked at Ye Tian's disappearing back and sighed deeply. Originally, I thought Ye Tian's strength was about the same as mine. I didn't expect him to hide it so deeply. With Ye Tian's talent, becoming a martial artist in the future is certain. He might even have hope of stepping into the rank of an elite martial artist. It would be a lie to say he wasn't envious, but envy was useless. This was an era that emphasized talent. He only had a lesser talent, and for his whole life, the best he could achieve was reaching the early stage of a martial artist. Let's go. Let's head back, Zhang Bao said helplessly. Go back. We're not hunting fierce beasts anymore. One student asked unwillingly. No more hunting. With our strength, even if we join forces, there's no hope of obtaining vicious beast blood. Actually, I should have realized long ago that the so-called trial is just an opportunity given by the 5 major academies to the top students. They just want to create some martial artists as quickly as possible. As for the lives of us weak martial apprentices, do you think those big shots care? No matter how many martial apprentices die, they won't feel any heartache. Zhang Bao smiled bitterly. The other students all remained silent, clearly acquiescing. This world was very cruel. To martial artists, the lives of ordinary people and martial apprentices really didn't amount to much. This trial was said to be for all apprentices, but in reality, it was still a trial, or rather a tempering, for those top apprentices. 7 or 8 people walked toward the exit of the small wilderness area with lonely expressions, never looking back. After running for a distance, Ye Tian stopped. Currently, he was carrying quite a few things on his back. Although these things weren't very heavy, they significantly affected combat. He couldn't keep fighting while carrying these materials. Normally, there were 2 ways. One was to return to the valley entrance and exchange these materials for points, but going back and forth like that would waste too much time. The second way was to hide the materials and retrieve them when returning. I'll bury them first. Ye Tian quickly dug a hole in the ground, buried all the materials, and then did some camouflaging. The small wilderness area was very large, so the chance of being discovered by others was extremely low. Besides, ordinary fierce beasts wouldn't be interested in these materials. With everything ready, Ye Tian accelerated toward the southeast. Boom! From a distance, the sounds of battle drifted over. Just from the sound alone, one could tell how intense the fight was. Could it be that the pseudo-vicious beast spotted snake is being besieged again? Ye Tian guessed. Although a pseudo-vicious beast was powerful, there were quite a few experts at the peak of the martial apprentice rank this time. If they really fought, this pseudo-vicious beast wouldn't be enough to survive the encirclement of these students. I hope I can make it in time. Ye Tian secretly hoped. 30 seconds later, Ye Tian arrived, but the situation was different from what he had expected. Ye Tian's pupils constricted. In the field, about a dozen martial apprentices were besieging an injured spotted snake. This spotted snake wasn't the 10 meters Zhang Bao had mentioned, but had reached 12 meters. A vicious beast. This spotted snake has reached the level of a vicious beast, though it's the weakest kind of vicious beast. Ye Tian judged. Vicious beast's strength wasn't categorized by size. This spotted snake was considered a very large type among vicious beasts, but its methods were simple, and its power wasn't very great. Its strength was even weaker than an average vicious beast. But how could this spotted snake have become a vicious beast? Not only was Ye Tian puzzled, but the other students were also very surprised. But at this moment, no one thought too much about it because what they wanted most was to hunt this vicious beast spotted snake. A pseudo-vicious beast spotted snake was only worth 500 points, but a vicious beast spotted snake was different. It was worth at least 1,000 points. Moreover, this was a vicious beast. Once hunted, the vicious beast blood inside would be enough for many students to absorb and refine. One could say that this vicious beast spotted snake was covered in treasures. Fortunately, this spotted snake had only just promoted to a vicious beast, and its strength wasn't much greater than a peak martial apprentice. Otherwise, these martial apprentice students wouldn't dare to besiege a vicious beast. But even so, the apprentices were constantly getting injured and withdrawing from the battle one by one. Ye Tian didn't make a move, observing secretly the whole time. About 10 minutes passed. Only 5 apprentices remained in the field. These 5 were the 5 genius students from the first academy who possessed medium-tier cultivation talents. However, they were also wounded and quite seriously injured, but the one even more seriously injured was the vicious beast spotted snake. Its body was pierced by many arrows, and there were many saber and sword wounds. There was even a sword scar on its forehead, looking extremely miserable. Suddenly, the vicious beast spotted snake activated its bloodline power and swung its massive tail fiercely, sending the 5 apprentices flying in an instant. The next moment, the vicious beast spotted snake fled into the distance. Having activated its bloodline, the vicious beast spotted snake now possessed the speed of a normal vicious beast. Unless one was a martial artist, it was impossible to catch up. The apprentices tried to give chase for a bit, but found they couldn't come close to catching up. Damn it, we let this vicious beast escape again. Everyone chase it. This vicious beast is heavily injured, it can't run too far, Mo Sheabe said indignantly. However, what no one knew was that a figure had secretly followed it. Haha, heaven is truly helping me. After activating my speed talent, I'm fast enough to catch up to this vicious beast spotted snake. Ye Tian said excitedly, following the vicious beast spotted snake all the way. After several twists and turns, the vicious beast spotted snake dragged its heavily injured body into a cave. Ye Tian hesitated for a moment and then entered the cave. With his speed, Even if he encountered danger, he would be able to retreat. The cave was very deep, extending all the way downwards. Not knowing how long he had walked, Ye Tian finally arrived at a cavern, and the vicious beast spotted snake was also here. However, by this time, the vicious beast spotted snake was at its last gasp, yet it was still crawling toward a part of the cavern. Without a word, Ye Tian unleashed his speed talent and slashed the vicious beast spotted snake's body stroke by stroke with his fine iron saber. Even though his strength was weak, he quickly killed the vicious beast spotted snake. Collect the vicious beast blood. Ye Tian didn't forget this important matter. He quickly took out the water bottle from his waist and stabbed open the vicious beast spotted snake's heart. The vicious beast's heart blood trickled into the water bottle bit by bit. This vicious beast spotted snake had only just promoted to a vicious beast. Most of its blood was still fierce beast blood. Only the blood at its heart was true, pure vicious beast blood. Therefore, Ye Tian only collected the heart blood and didn't bother with the blood from other parts. Soon, the water bottle was full, and the blood from the vicious beast spotted snake's heart was exhausted. It's equivalent to a full 5 portions of low-grade vicious beast blood. I've hit the jackpot this time. Ye Tian was beyond excited. Chapter 11. Body Forging Method and Vicious Beast Blood. 5th update. The most valuable part of the ferocious beast spotted snake was its blood. As for its snake skin, although it was also worth several $1,000s, Ye Tian couldn't carry it alone, and skinning it was also very troublesome. Mo Xiaobei and the others would probably find this place very soon. He couldn't stay here for too long. Before it died, the ferocious beast spotted snake kept crawling in that direction. Could it be that there's something good over there that can heal its injuries? Ye Tian looked over. That is. His expression changed. Not far away, a stalactite hung upside down from the top of the cave. A drop of liquid substance dripped onto a stone trough where a small layer had already accumulated. This liquid substance emitted a faint white light. At a glance, one could tell it was no ordinary thing. Novels often mention things like 100-year stone stalactite liquid, 1,000-year stone stalactite liquid. Could this be it? Ye Tian guessed. However, he didn't understand such treasures. He was only guessing based on the novels from his past life. But no matter what, this thing was definitely something good. Therefore, Ye Tian took out his last water bottle, poured out all the remaining water, went under the stalactite, and carefully collected the remaining stalactite liquid, let's call it that for now, into the water bottle. There wasn't much stalactite liquid. It was estimated that the ferocious beast spotted snake had eaten quite a bit, so he only managed to fill less than half the bottle. Looking at the stalactite and watching the stalactite liquid slowly accumulating on it, Ye Tian formed a plan in his heart. At this rate, at most 1 drop of stalactite liquid accumulates per day. I can't wait here, but I also can't let it benefit other trainees. I have no choice but to destroy it, Ye Tian thought ruthlessly. Therefore, he gripped his refined iron blade and chopped at the stalactite again and again. Soon, he cut off the entire stalactite, then took some measures to cover up the traces here. Since this place could give birth to stalactite liquid, perhaps there are even more precious treasures within the rock layers. But the rock layers are too solid. I can't open them now. I'll come back to explore later, Ye Tian said regretfully. After roughly erasing his own traces, and then digging out the ferocious beast spotted snake's eyes, Ye Tian left the cave. Less than 10 minutes after Ye Tian left, a group of trainees followed the blood trail of the ferocious beast spotted snake and arrived. When they reached the cave, they were instantly dumbfounded. The ferocious beast is dead, a martial disciple exclaimed in shock. Damn it. Someone got here first and took the beast's eyes. That's 1,000 points. Mo Xiaobei said angrily. The other trainees were also extremely angry. They had worked hard for so long, everyone was injured, and many trainees had even died. Yet now someone had beaten them to the prize. Not good. The heart's blood of the ferocious beast has also been taken. Only ordinary beast blood is left. Another martial disciple shouted, vicious beast blood. Spotted snake eyeballs. These 2 most important items were completely taken. Although the entire ferocious beast corpse was still worth some money, Mo Xiaobei and the others simply didn't care about a mere corpse. They turned and left. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. However, this ferocious beast corpse was quite valuable to those ordinary martial disciples. They divided it up among themselves. There were many caves in the small wilderness area. Ye Tian soon found another small cave, killed the fierce beast inside, and occupied this cave. Now, he had already obtained the ferocious beast's spotted snake's eyeballs, worth 1,000 points. For the remaining day and a half, he completely didn't need to hunt fierce beasts anymore because he was guaranteed first place. But he didn't want to waste time either. He planned to cultivate here for a while. I wonder how much this much vicious beast blood can improve my strength. Ye Tian was somewhat expectant. He took a sip of vicious beast blood, then immediately began practicing the body forging method. Boom. The vicious beast blood transformed into a stream of energy that, along with the movements of the body forging method, began to temper Ye Tian's body, accelerating the increase in his strength. Soon, the 18 movements were completed, and the energy from the vicious beast blood was also basically exhausted. Ye Tian carefully sensed the changes in his body and was immediately overjoyed. Nearly 4 times the cultivation speed, and this is only low-level vicious beast blood. If I had mid-level vicious beast blood to assist cultivation, wouldn't the effect be even more heaven-defying? No wonder many people with poor talent become martial artists, even elite martial artists, by their 20s or 30s. They must rely on large amounts of vicious beast blood. Ye Tian speculated. Taking another sip of vicious beast blood, Ye Tian continued cultivating. He had medium-tier cultivation talent, so his absorption efficiency of vicious beast blood far surpassed that of ordinary people. If he only had low cultivation talent, being able to increase cultivation speed by 2 times would be considered good. With vicious beast blood, Ye Tian's growth speed far exceeded others. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed. At this moment, Ye Tian discovered that he had already performed the body forging method 10 times, but it seemed, my body isn't that tired. Could it be that I can perform the body forging method again? Thinking it, he acted. Ye Tian practiced the body forging method one more time and found that he really did complete it easily, and it absolutely did not cause any damage to his body. I understand now. The reason ordinary people can only practice the body forging method 10 times is because the body's energy is limited. Practicing beyond that drains the body's potential, but with vicious beast blood, it's different. The vicious beast blood replaces the body's energy, so one can practice the body forging method multiple times. 10 times is far from the limit. I could even practice 20 times or even 30 times. Ye Tian said excitedly, perhaps this secret wasn't a secret to martial artists, but no one revealed it to martial disciples. Mainly because martial disciples found it difficult to obtain vicious beast blood. Martial artists themselves didn't have enough vicious beast blood for their own cultivation, so naturally, they wouldn't make this secret public. Otherwise, countless martial disciples would go crazy. Even in major families, supplying large amounts of vicious beast blood to martial disciples simply wasn't realistic. Ha, this much vicious beast blood is enough for me to cultivate for 2 days. Perhaps by the time the trial ends, I can increase my strength to 400 jin of force. Ye Tian clenched his fist and thought to himself, continue cultivating. While Ye Tian was cultivating, the outside world was in chaos. To obtain more points, many martial disciples robbed each other, all for better rankings. However, these martial disciples also didn't dare to kill anyone, as the punishment would be extremely severe. No one knew if martial artists were hidden in the shadows. Even so, the weaker martial disciples suffered. The materials they worked hard to obtain were snatched away one by one. In the blink of an eye, the 3-day trial was about to end. At this time, martial disciples walked out of the small wilderness area one by one. Chapter 12. The terrifying effects of intermediate vicious beast blood. Chapter 12. The terrifying effects of intermediate vicious beast blood. First update: Zhang He 10 points, Lai Yu 15 points, Bao Lei 23 points, Zhu Hai 0 points. The teacher calculating the points looked at Zhu Hai's bruised face and clearly guessed the reason. Zhu Hai must have had his materials stolen and been severely beaten, which was why he received 0 points. However, he felt no sympathy for such things. If one lacked the strength and got robbed, they deserved it. Lai Yunxing, 195 points. When Lai Yunxing's score was announced, the students of the Second Academy were all proud. After all, Lai Yunxing was from their Second Academy. He was the pride of the Second Academy. Tusk, only 195 points. With a result like that, you think you're worthy of challenging me. Mo Xiaobei walked out of the small wilderness area, looking at Lai Yunxing with a cold sneer. Immediately after, he brought out his harvest one by one, filling 3 large bags. The scoring teacher carefully calculated Mo Xiaobei's harvest and announced a shocking score. Mo Xiaobei, 427 points. How could it be so many? Lai Yunxing's expression changed, and he then said coldly, "You must have stolen them from others. That is also a testament to my skill." Mo Xiaobei sneered. Lai Yunxing's face flushed red, not knowing how to refute him. Wow, 427 points. Mo Xiaobei should be number 1, right? Among the 5 great geniuses of the First Academy, Mo Xiaobei has the strongest strength. It wouldn't even be an exaggeration to call him the number 1 martial apprentice in our coastal base. No one should have more points than him, don't you guys know? A vicious beast, a spotted snake, appeared in the small wilderness area. That spotted snake was heavily injured by a group of martial apprentices, but someone else ended up taking advantage of it in the end. That spotted snake is worth 1,000 points. Who got the spotted snake's eyeballs? Just the vicious beast eyeballs alone would be enough to take first place. Such good luck. While the luck is good, it was snatched from the hands of many martial apprentices. Mo Xiaobei and the others are furious. If that person really dares to use the spotted snake's eyeballs to exchange for points, their identity will be exposed, and they will definitely offend Mo Xiaobei and the others. Tusk. The reward for first place is 3 portions of intermediate vicious beast blood and 100,000 yuan. If they offend Mo Xiaobei, then they offend him. Does Mo Xiaobei even dare to make a move within the coastal base? He wouldn't dare to make a move, but Mo Xiaobei is from the Mo family of coastal base. Just finding a bit of trouble for that person would be enough to make them regret it immensely. Mo Xiaobei didn't care about the others' conversation. His gaze remained fixed on the entrance. HMPH, I don't believe you'd be willing to give up the title of number 1. Once I know your identity, you're dead. Mo Xiaobei's eyes glinted with ferocity as he thought to himself. Just as the allotted time was about to end, a young man walked out from the small wilderness area, carrying 1 large bag and 1 small bag on his back. The young man was Ye Tian. "Teacher, this is my harvest. Please calculate it." Ye Tian handed the large and small bags to the teacher, calculating the points, speaking with a smile. The scoring teacher opened the bags, calculated carefully, and said, "A total of 163 points. This many points wasn't considered few. It was almost enough to break into the top 10. Teacher, I still have 1 more material in my hand." Ye Tian took out the eyeballs of the vicious beast spotted snake. As soon as the spotted snake's eyeballs appeared, a faint aura of a vicious beast's might radiated from them. The eyeballs of a spotted snake. You actually got them. The scoring teacher looked at Ye Tian in surprise. This material counts for 1,000 points. Your total score is 1,163 points. Swish, swish, swish. One cold gaze after another swept toward Ye Tian. "Who are you? How dare you steal our spotted snake eyeballs?" Mo Xiaobei questioned him coldly. One of Mo Xiaobei's lackeys leaned in and whispered, "Boss, he seems to be a student from the 5th Academy." The 5th Academy. When Mo Xiaobei heard this, he became even more infuriated. In his eyes, students of the 5th Academy were nothing but trash. To dare to snatch the spotted snake's eyeballs and vicious beast blood from his hands was equivalent to slapping his face, and slapping the face of the 1st Academy. Although, given his status, he didn't necessarily need intermediate vicious beast blood. After all, he could step into the rank of martial artist at any time, and his status in the family would be even higher then, with plenty of ways to obtain vicious beast blood. But the loss of face was something he could not tolerate. Stealing your spotted snake eyeballs. How ridiculous. The vicious beasts in the small wilderness area don't belong to your family. Since I saw it, naturally I could hunt it, and what I hunt is naturally mine, Ye Tian said with a chuckle. He wasn't afraid of offending Mo Xiaobei. As long as he obtained the intermediate vicious beast blood with his talent, he could definitely promote to the rank of martial artist in a short time. Moreover, he could continuously copy talents. His future achievements would far exceed anything Mo Xiaobei could compare to. Furthermore, in coastal base, Mo Xiaobei could at most use some petty tricks against him. But if Mo Xiaobei dared to go too far, he would make Mo Xiaobei understand the meaning of regret. Mo Xiaobei also knew that further words were useless. He gave Ye Tian a fierce glare and left behind a sentence. "Kid, you just wait and see." The others also looked at Ye Tian with displeasure, but they said nothing because they knew Mo Xiaobei would deal with him. They would just wait quietly. The trial ended. Ye Tian successfully received 3 portions of intermediate vicious beast blood and 100,000 yuan as he had hoped. It was now the 3rd day after the trial ended. During these 3 days, Ye Tian did not consume the intermediate vicious beast blood. Instead, he consolidated his foundation, completely refining the remaining low-grade vicious beast blood in his body. The spotted snake blood had been completely exhausted, and in exchange, his strength had significantly increased. According to measurements, Ye Tian's current strength was approximately 420 jin. Such strength could be considered that of a medium-tier martial apprentice. But this was still far from enough. I wonder how many times the amplification from intermediate vicious beast blood will be. Ye Tian looked at the intermediate vicious beast blood in the small bottle and muttered to himself. He didn't dare to swallow this portion of intermediate vicious beast blood in one gulp, instead only taking a small sip. Boom. The power brought by the intermediate vicious beast blood was incredibly violent, far more terrifying than low-grade vicious beast blood. But the benefits were also far stronger. Enduring the sharp pain, Ye Tian performed the body forging method over and over again. He had completely lost all sense of time in his mind, his body performing the body forging method as if by instinct. Finally, Ye Tian felt that the energy of the intermediate vicious beast blood was almost exhausted, so he slowly stopped. I actually practiced the body forging method 8 times just now. Ye Tian felt very surprised. Practicing the body forging method 8 times in one breath was something he hadn't dared to attempt in the past. Otherwise, his body would surely have broken down. But with the assistance of the intermediate vicious beast blood, he had completed it, and his whole body was full of energy. He sensed the change in his strength and calculated the amplification effect of the intermediate vicious beast blood, an 8-fold cultivation amplification. Ye Tian judged, if he could always use intermediate vicious beast blood for cultivation, he was even confident he could promote to the rank of martial artist within a month. The auxiliary cultivation effect of the intermediate vicious beast blood was truly terrifying. Chapter 13. Earth Core Liquid. Chapter 13. Earth Core Liquid. Second update. Requesting evaluation votes. 3 portions of intermediate vicious beast blood should allow me to cultivate for 5 days, enough to increase my strength to 600 jin, or even more. Ye Tian estimated roughly. 600 jin of strength combined with speed talent and medium-tier saber talent was enough for his combat power to crush any martial apprentice, and he wouldn't be much weaker than a newly promoted martial artist. Right, I still don't know what effects the stalactite liquid I obtained has. I need to check as soon as possible. Ye Tian was still hoping that the stalactite liquid could significantly increase his cultivation, perhaps even allowing him to promote to a martial artist early. In the 100 years since the apocalypse, countless strange treasures have appeared. Naturally, people have compiled treasure compendiums to prevent martial artists from missing out on treasures when entering the wilderness. Such a treasure compendium wasn't expensive. It could be bought for 1,000 yuan. In the past, Ye Tian wouldn't have been able to buy it, but now he wasn't short on money. Besides the 3 portions of vicious beast blood, the first-place prize also included 100,000 yuan. Thus, Ye Tian went to a shop and bought a relatively comprehensive treasure compendium. After returning home, Ye Tian flipped through page by page, and after going through more than half, he finally found the entry for stalactite liquid. Earth core liquid, formed by earth vein stones absorbing heaven and earth origin Chi for 100 years. It has the effect of improving cultivation talent, but only for those below medium-tier cultivation talent. Places where earth core liquid is born have a small probability of producing earth element stones, which can improve the talent of martial artists below advanced cultivation talent. Looking at this description, Ye Tian's breathing quickened. Heavens, it's actually a treasure that can improve cultivation talent. If I sold it, forget 100,000, people would probably buy it for millions or even tens of millions, right? Ye Tian murmured. But in the next moment, he extinguished that thought. If he really sold the earth core liquid, he was certain he wouldn't live to see the next day. At this moment, he also understood why that spotted snake was able to break its racial limitations and promote to the vicious beast level. At the time, he had also glanced at that spotted snake's bloodline talent. It had reached medium-tier talent, making it seem like a different species compared to other spotted snakes. Now it seemed the earth core liquid had improved its bloodline talent. Otherwise, that snake would never have been able to promote to the vicious beast level in its entire life. It's a pity the earth core liquid's effect on increasing cultivation is too low, and I'm not worried about talent at all. Even if this thing were useful to me, I wouldn't need to take it, and besides, it's useless for someone like me with medium-tier cultivation talent. It's useless to me, and I can't sell it, so what should I do with it? Ye Tian said somewhat disappointedly. Suddenly, he thought of his younger sister, Ye. Right, sister seems to only have inferior talent. If I give this earth core liquid to her, wouldn't it be possible to raise her talent to elementary or even medium-tier talent? Ye Tian thought, lunchtime. Ye Tian looked at his sister and said, Sister, this is good stuff, drink it. He then took out the earth core liquid and placed it in front of Ye. What is this? Ye was somewhat curious. She wasn't worried that her brother would harm her. She was just worried about whether it tasted good. It's a very nourishing good thing. Ye Tian said seriously. He didn't tell his sister the effect of the earth core liquid. After all, she hadn't started cultivating yet and had no idea what her talent was. Telling her would only cause a lot of trouble. Brother, aren't you going to drink it? Ye looked at her brother with wide eyes. I've already had some. This is for you. Ye Tian patted Ye's head affectionately. Okay, then I'll drink it. Ye drank the earth core liquid sip by sip. There wasn't much earth core liquid, and Ye finished it quickly. How do you feel? Ye Tian asked hurriedly. After all, he hadn't drunk the earth core liquid himself and didn't know its specific effects, but the treasure compendium said it was safe for anyone to drink because its effects were very gentle. I feel my body is warm. It's very comfortable. Ye described her feeling. Sister, this thing is very precious. Don't tell anyone else. It's enough that you and I know. Ye Tian cautioned her solemnly. He was afraid Ye might let it slip while playing with other friends outside. If someone with bad intentions guessed it, they would be in danger. Brother, I won't say a word. Ye nodded. The two continued eating. While eating, Ye Tian used his copy talent to continuously observe Ye's talent status. After about 3 minutes, Ye's talent really changed. Human, Ye cultivation talent, elementary frost talent, elementary, unawakened. About an hour after finishing lunch, Ye Tian noticed that Ye's talent had changed again. Human, Ye cultivation talent, medium-tier frost talent, elementary, unawakened. Until the next day, Ye's talent remained unchanged. Clearly, medium tier was the limit, as earth core liquid only works for those below medium tier talent, and since Ye had already reached medium tier talent, it was impossible to improve further. Sister already has medium tier talent, and with her frost talent, becoming a top-tier martial artist in coastal base won't be a problem in the future, Ye Tian said with relief. After getting money, Ye Tian sent his sister to an academy class. After all, she was only 13 years old. Staying at home all day would make her sick with boredom. In an academy class, she could not only learn more knowledge but also play with more companions. This was the life his sister should have. At first, his sister didn't agree because she knew their family's situation. But when Ye Tian took out 100,000 yuan, she agreed. Regarding the source of this money, Ye Tian said he had participated in a martial arts competition at the academy and won first place, and the 100,000 yuan was the prize. Actually, this wasn't really a lie. After all, the trial could be considered a competition. With his sister off to school, Ye Tian could focus on cultivating. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. By this time, the intermediate vicious beast blood had long been exhausted by Ye Tian. A month of cultivation allowed Ye Tian's strength to break through again, reaching 800 jin. 800 jin of strength was already considered an high-grade martial apprentice, not far from attempting to reach the martial artist realm. In terms of actual combat power, Ye Tian was almost comparable to a martial artist. Unfortunately, without the vicious beast blood, his progress slowed down, and his strength wasn't yet enough to go to the wilderness to hunt vicious beasts, so he could only slowly spend time increasing his strength. Mo family. Mo Xiaobei came out of seclusion. Since the end of the trial, he had been in closed-door cultivation to break through to the martial artist realm, and now he had successfully entered the martial artist level as he wished. The entire Mo family was celebrating this joyous occasion. While the outside world was discussing Mo Xiaobei, he was discussing something with his old servant. Old Lai, how is the investigation going? Mo Xiaobei stared at the old servant Lai Hai and asked, reminder, the website will be revamped soon, which may cause loss of reading progress. Please save your bookshelf and reading records in time. Screenshots recommended. We apologize for any inconvenience caused. Chapter 14. Shadow Talent. Third release. Lai Hai was a martial artist, but only an elementary one. Now 60 years old, he had remained at this level his entire life. He was a servant arranged for Mo Xiaobei by his father and had been working for him all along. Young master, the investigation is complete. That Ye Tian is just from an ordinary family. His parents were once martial artists, but they died in the wild over a year ago. Now only Ye Tian and his younger sister remain, Lai Hai reported truthfully. If I hadn't been in seclusion breaking through to the martial artist realm, how could he have lived for another month? HMPH, find someone and kill him, Mo Xiaobei said with a face full of murderous intent. Lai Hai's expression changed. Young master, killing someone within the base. If it's found out, even with our Mo family's great influence, it might be quite troublesome. If they find out, I'll indeed have trouble, but what if they don't? Mo Xiaobei sneered. If they don't find out. Lai Hai suddenly thought of someone. Young master, do you want to hire Shadow? But to hire Shadow, the price isn't cheap, at least 1 million. In Lai Hai's view, spending 1 million to kill a martial apprentice was simply not worth it. Furthermore, Mo Xiaobei had only just been promoted to the martial artist level and couldn't mobilize much of the family's funds, at most around 1 million or so. That kid's talent should be decent. To reach the martial apprentice realm at such a young age, and not just as a beginner, his talent should be elementary, though likely not medium tier. But even so, with the help of intermediate vicious beast blood and vicious beast spotted snake blood, he might be able to promote to the martial artist realm in a year or two. The cost of killing a martial apprentice versus a martial artist is different. I want to stifle him before he grows up, do you understand? 1 million is indeed a significant sum for me now, but in another year or two, what would a mere 1 million matter? Mo Xiaobei analyzed. Young master, I understand. I'll go contact Shadow right away, Lai Hai said. After speaking, he withdrew. Inside the room, Mo Xiaobei muttered to himself. Although Shadow only has subpar talent and cannot progress further after reaching the early stage of the martial artist realm, he is an incredibly rare, multi-talented martial artist. He possesses a shadow talent that allows him to hide in the shadows. Even elite martial artists find it difficult to observe Shadow's presence. He is an extremely terrifying existence among martial artists. Even I might not necessarily be able to dodge Shadow's fatal assassination. With him going to assassinate Ye Tian is as good as dead. Immediately, he put this matter aside for the time being and began his cultivation as a martial artist. 1 day later. As usual, after Ye Tian finished cultivating in the academy's small grove, he prepared to head back. However, just as he was about to leave the grove, his expression changed slightly, and a hint of shock appeared deep in his pupils. His gaze subtly shifted toward the base of a tree 3 meters away. This tree was not small, but there was nothing under its shadow. It was empty. However, Ye Tian knew deeply that someone was there. Human. Lai Kun cultivation talent, subpar shadow talent. Elementary, the copy talent had already become Ye Tian's instinctual talent. He could investigate everything within a 3-meter radius at any time. Once any person or animal approached him, he would know. This was also a method for him to protect himself. This person named Lai Kun must be using a shadow talent to hide his form, which is why I can't see him with the naked eye. To have an awakened talent, there's no doubt his strength is at the martial artist level, but since his talent is only subpar, his strength is clearly at the weakest early stage of a martial artist. In just an instant, Ye Tian had figured out Lai Kun's situation. It was now evening and night was about to fall. The academy's students had basically all left, and he was currently the only one in this grove. Lai Kun's purpose for hiding here was self-evident. Is he here to assassinate me? Ye Tian thought to himself. He didn't know Lai Kun. Clearly, someone had hired Lai Kun to assassinate him, and he didn't even need to guess to know who it was. Mo Xiaobei, killing intent flashed in Ye Tian's eyes. He had only thought Mo Xiaobei would use some small tricks to give him a little trouble. He didn't expect Mo Xiaobei would actually dare to hire someone to assassinate him. If I live, Mo Xiaobei, you must die, Ye Tian swore. The current situation was not very favorable for Ye Tian, but it was also an opportunity for him. His copy talent could be used to copy again, but he hadn't decided what to copy yet. Now, a great talent had appeared right in front of him. For a weak martial artist, shadow talent was definitely a somewhat heaven-defying talent. Once he possessed shadow talent, many things he couldn't do before could be done. To get the shadow talent, I must first take down Lai Kun, Ye Tian said calmly. He walked slowly, feeling a sense of killing intent about to envelop him. He knew Lai Kun was about to strike. However, just as Lai Kun was about to move, Ye Tian struck first. Swish speed talent activated. Ye Tian, who possessed 800 jin of strength, was already not slow. With the boost from the speed talent, his speed had already surpassed that of an average martial artist, and was even comparable to a middle-stage martial artist. Lai Kun had thought killing a martial apprentice would be simple, so he hadn't paid much attention to Ye Tian. He was instantly stunned by Ye Tian's speed. Die, Ye Tian held his fine iron saber and slashed down fiercely. Rip, the fine iron saber cut into an object and a spray of fresh blood spurted out. Kid, you're looking for death, Lai Kun emerged from his shadow state. At this moment, a wound had appeared on his right arm, and the injury was quite severe. If Ye Tian's strength had been a bit greater, his arm would have been cut off by Ye Tian. With his right hand injured, Lai Kun held his blade in his left hand to attack Ye Tian. Although this would greatly reduce his combat power, he felt he could still kill a martial apprentice. But soon he was dumbfounded. Ye Tian's speed was too fast, much faster than his own, and his saber techniques were incredibly sharp. Even with over 20 years of experience immersed in the blade, he was not as good as Ye Tian. Relying on speed and saber techniques, Ye Tian gradually suppressed Lai Kun. Meanwhile, Lai Kun's right hand was injured and still bleeding, causing his condition to worsen. Suddenly, Ye Tian seized an opportunity and slashed Lai Kun's chest, directly inflicting a heavy injury. Kid, you just wait. Lai Kun's figure flashed, and he disappeared entirely. However, Ye Tian did not stop, continuing to slash toward the empty space. Boom. With one strike, a figure was sent flying. It was Lai Kun. Damn it, you actually saw through my shadow talent. This is impossible. Lai Kun was clearly in disbelief. In coastal base, let alone a martial artist. Even an elite martial artist couldn't see through his talent ability. Only a great martial artist could see his form by projecting their mental energy outward. Relying on his shadow talent, he had become an existence that many martial artists in coastal base dared not provoke. How could he have expected to be in such a pathetic state while dealing with a martial apprentice today? Ye Tian did not speak, responding to Lai Kun only with his blade. Soon, Lai Kun could no longer hold on. Half of his neck was sliced open by Ye Tian's blade, and he died completely. Reminder, The website will be updated soon, which may cause loss of reading progress. Please save your bookshelf and reading records. Screenshots recommended in time. We apologize for the inconvenience. Chapter 15, Bronze Level Blade Skill 4th Update. Fortunately, the corpse is intact, otherwise there would be no way to copy the talent. Ye Tian breathed a sigh of relief and said, regarding the limitations of the copy talent, he had already tested them in the small wilderness area. Once a corpse is too badly damaged, it becomes impossible to observe the talent situation, and naturally, there's no way to copy the talent. Copy shadow talent. With a thought, Ye Tian began the copying process. In an instant, the shadow talent was successfully copied. He didn't go home, but instead began the talent fusion right then and there. Fusing the elementary shadow talent wasn't too painful for Ye Tian. After all, his physical strength was far beyond what it used to be, and having fused talents multiple times, his immunity to pain had increased. Thus, aside from a slight pain in his body and some sweat, there was nothing else. 10 minutes passed, and the shadow talent was successfully fused. At this time, Ye Tian's talent situation had changed. Human. Ye Tian Cultivation Talent, Medium-Tier Speed Talent, Elementary Saber Talent, Medium-Tier Shadow Talent, Elementary 4 types of talents. Ye Tian was very satisfied with his current talent situation. He didn't know the situation in other bases, but he was certain that in Coastal Base, no one had more talents than him. In Coastal Base, he was absolutely invincible among those of the same rank. This Lai Kun should have some good things on him, right? Ye Tian carefully examined Lai Kun's corpse. Lai Kun's saber was not bad. It was a black saber with a blood groove in the middle. This black saber didn't have a single nick on it, whereas his own saber had been severely damaged after this battle. Presumably, this black saber should be a very sharp origin weapon. It can serve as my weapon. Ye Tian happily put away Lai Kun's black saber and searched through Lai Kun's clothes. Soon, everything on Lai Kun's person had been searched by Ye Tian. A secret manual, 3 gold cards, 5 white cards, and some miscellaneous paper currency. Seeing these gains, Ye Tian was excited, even more so than when he copied the shadow talent. Because 1 gold card represented 1 million yuan, and 1 white card represented 10,000 yuan. There was a total of over 3 million yuan here. Gold cards are equivalent to bank cards from my previous life. Coastal Base doesn't have the technology to manufacture gold cards. It's said they are made by some large bases. The banks in Coastal Base are opened by those large bases, so these gold cards can be used to withdraw money even in those large bases. Ye Tian thought to himself. With over 3 million yuan suddenly added to his wealth, Ye Tian's net worth instantly skyrocketed many times over. Coupled with the shadow talent, he felt he could definitely grow in a short period, even to the point where he could ignore the Mo family. There is still one trouble to solve right now. Mo Xiaobei, a flash of killing intent appeared in Ye Tian's eyes. Now, he and Mo Xiaobei were in a life and death struggle. Even if he didn't go to retaliate against Mo Xiaobei, once Lai Kun failed to return for a long time and he remained alive, Mo Xiaobei would inevitably know Lai Kun had failed. The next attack might be a martial artist late stage or even an elite martial artist. Therefore, he must kill Mo Xiaobei as soon as possible to eliminate the trouble for himself. Of course, he couldn't kill Mo Xiaobei using his own identity. If he did, he would definitely face frantic retaliation from the Mo family. I've got it. Ye Tian looked at Lai Kun's body and smiled slightly. Now that he possessed the shadow talent and Lai Kun's black saber, he could absolutely impersonate Lai Kun. First, dispose of Lai Kun's corpse. Ye Tian quickly found an empty spot and buried Lai Kun deeply at that, and then covered up the traces. Even if the corpse was exposed in the future, it would be a long time from now, and there wouldn't be any problems for the time being. By now, it was already dark, and Ye Tian hurried back home. After returning, Ye Tian didn't rest, but instead familiarized himself with the shadow talent. The shadow talent actually wasn't that heaven-defying. It was impossible to stay in a shadow state all the time. Being in a shadow state requires the consumption of energy and must be in a shadowed area. Once light shines on it, the form is exposed. Secondly, one cannot launch an attack while in the shadow state. Once an attack is launched, one is exposed. Nor can one be attacked. Once hit, the shadow state will be forced to break. The shadow talent is suitable for hiding and assassination, and it can evade enemies at critical moments, but it is not suitable for frontal combat. There's also a secret manual. Ye Tian took out Lai Kun's secret manual and read it carefully, becoming more excited as he read. This was a saber technique manual, Shadow Blade. Shadow Blade had only one move, called Shadow Kill. It was a fast blade technique, striking as quick as lightning. But what truly excited Ye Tian was the discourse on the blade Dao. Although he had a medium-tier saber talent, he knew very little about the blade Dao. The blade Dao is divided into 3 levels: form, momentum, and intent. Although ordinary people can use a blade, they can only master the form and can never master the momentum. To master momentum, one must possess a saber talent. In addition, Shadow Blade was a bronze-level blade skill, which could be considered a very powerful technique. Once mastered, one's combat power would increase significantly, enough to fight above one's level. According to what's written, blade skills are divided into 4 levels: black iron, bronze, silver, and gold. Ordinary people practicing black iron-level blade skills might be able to cultivate a mere semblance of the form, but without saber talent, there's no way to reach major achievement in a black iron-level blade skill, let alone a bronze-level one. Although Lai Kun had a bronze-level blade skill, unfortunately, he didn't have a saber talent. Otherwise, the one who died today would have been me. Ye Tian thought fortunately. I'll let Mo Xiaobei live for a few more days. I'll practice Shadow Blade first. Once I reach the entry level with Shadow Blade, that will be the day I strike, Ye Tian decided. With his medium-tier saber talent, he had an unimaginable comprehension of blade skills. In just 3 days, the bronze-level blade skill Shadow Blade, which ordinary people might never master in a lifetime, was practiced to the entry level by Ye Tian. Besides that, Ye Tian's blade Dao had also made some progress, reaching the major achievement level of blade form, and he wasn't far from blade momentum. Late at night, Mo Xiaobei's residence. At this time, Mo Xiaobei was extremely annoyed. 3 whole days had passed, and Shadow hadn't sent back any news. Lai Hai stood beside Mo Xiaobei, clearly sensing the young lord's anger. Elder Lai, that bullshit Shadow couldn't have run off with my money, could he? No news for 3 days. Could it be that, as a martial artist, he can't find an opportunity to strike at a martial apprentice? Mo Xiaobei said coldly. Young lord, although Shadow is greedy for money and requires payment in advance every time, his reputation has always been good. Perhaps he took on another mission at the same time and hasn't had the chance to act yet, Lai Hai guessed. It better be that way, otherwise I'll let Shadow know the terror of our Mo family. Mo Xiaobei forcibly suppressed his anger and waved his hand, signaling Lai Hai to leave. Lai Hai left Mo Xiaobei's residence and walked outside. The night was very dark, and in the darkness, a surge of killing intent enveloped the Mo manor. Lai Hai felt a pang of trepidation, then smiled. I'm probably just too worried. Who would dare to strike at me in the Mo family? Just as he was about to walk on, a figure flashed out from the side, and a black saber slashed towards him. This strike was too fast. Even as fast as Lai Hai's thoughts were, he only saw a black saber before losing consciousness. In the instant he lost consciousness, he thought of one person, Shadow. Why did Shadow kill me? That was Lai Hai's final thought. Chapter 16. Mo Xiaobei dies. First update after killing Lai Hai, Ye Tian's figure vanished into the darkness once more. Is there movement? Inside his room, Mo Xiaobei heard a sound from outside, the sound of someone falling. Although he didn't know exactly what happened, he still called out, Lai Hai, what's going on out there? There was no response. Something's happened. Mo Xiaobei thought to himself. Lai Hai had just stepped out. With a martial artist's hearing, he should have been able to hear his voice even from 100 meters away. Since Lai Hai didn't respond, something was definitely wrong. A sense of crisis arose, and Mo Xiaobei felt an inexplicable fear. I can't go out. I absolutely cannot go out. Mo Xiaobei had a feeling that if he went out, he would surely die. Someone come here. Mo Xiaobei shouted loudly. Though he didn't know if this would work, he certainly didn't want to sit and wait for death. While the Mo family didn't have many martial artists, as long as he drew attention, the Mo family's experts would arrive one by one. By then, even an elite martial artist wouldn't be able to escape the Mo family estate. Outside, Ye Tian, hidden in the darkness in his shadow state, heard Mo Xiaobei's shouting and realized it was unrealistic to wait for him to come out. Mo Xiaobei is too cautious and too cowardly. It seems I can only force the kill, Ye Tian thought to himself. Immediately, he deactivated his shadow talent and activated his speed talent, charging toward Mo Xiaobei's room at triple speed. In the blink of an eye, Ye Tian broke through the door. "It's you." Mo Xiaobei was stunned when he saw Ye Tian. Then he saw the black blade in Ye Tian's hand, and his expression changed drastically. "Anying's shadow blade. You killed Anying." At that moment, he finally understood why Anying hadn't responded for 3 days. It turned out Anying had already died at Ye Tian's hands. "So it really was you who sent someone to kill me." Before, Ye Tian was only 90% sure it was Mo Xiaobei's doing, but now he was 100% certain. "You don't have any Yuan Kai aura." A martial apprentice might be able to rely on assassination to take out a piece of trash martial artist like Lai Hai, but it's almost impossible for you to kill me. In just 1 more minute, the experts of my Mo family will arrive, and you'll be dead. Mo Xiaobei forced himself to stay calm. In reality, he was panicking internally. Anying was a terrifying assassin who could make even martial artists pale with fear, yet he had fallen to Ye Tian. Even if Ye Tian was a martial apprentice, his strength was more formidable than many martial artists. 1 minute. "No, you won't even last 10 seconds. Ye Tian moved. Shadow kill. The black blade turned into a beam of black light, slashing toward Mo Xiaobei like a bolt of lightning. This was a strike delivered under the amplification of his speed talent, enough to instantly kill an early-stage martial artist. Mo Xiaobei was a genius after all, and his combat power was significantly stronger than others of his rank. His reaction was not slow as he attempted to parry Ye Tian's shadow blade with the longsword in his hand. Unfortunately, he underestimated Ye Tian and the bronze-level blade skill. With a flash of blade light, Mo Xiaobei's right hand fell from his arm, severed in a single move. Before Mo Xiaobei could even scream, a second shadow kill arrived, the blade aimed straight for his neck. No. Mo Xiaobei screamed in despair within his heart, trying his hardest to dodge, but no miracle occurred. A fine head flew off the body and landed some distance away, its wide eyes filled with disbelief. After killing Mo Xiaobei, Ye Tian didn't even have time to collect the spoils of war. He rushed out of the room, entered the shadows to activate his shadow state, and quickly fled the Mo family estate. Under the cover of night, Ye Tian moved along the shadows. Even when he passed by the Mo family servants, no one noticed him, but Ye Tian didn't dare linger for a moment. He wasn't sure if the Mo family had a great martial artist. On the surface, Coastal Base only had a few great martial artists, but what about the reality? Ever since he learned that Coastal Base had many martial artists with medium-tier talents, he knew there must be more than just those few great martial artists. There were definitely more of them. Perhaps these great martial artists were the trump cards of various major families and would not easily take action. But with the death of a genius with medium-tier talent, if the Mo family had a great martial artist, they would surely be enraged. Once he encountered a great martial artist, 100 Ye Tians would still be dead. Shortly after Ye Tian left the Mo family, many high-ranking members of the Mo family gathered at Mo Xiaobei's residence. A middle-aged woman saw Mo Xiaobei's head and let out a tragic cry, "My son," before fainting. As for the other members of the Mo family, their faces were grim. "Who killed my son?" a burly martial artist roared. The aura on his body suddenly erupted, forcing the surrounding martial apprentices and even ordinary martial artists to retreat, not daring to approach. This was an elite martial artist, and one at the middle stage of the elite rank, only 1 step away from the late stage. He was Mo Xiaobei's father, the Mo family's 10th elder, Elder Mo En. "10th elder, please calm down," an old man quickly urged. Bloody tears flowed from Mo En's eyes, showing he was enraged to the extreme. "I only have this one son, and his talent reached the medium-tier level. Even I only have a top-tier elementary talent, and I spent countless resources to reach the middle stage of the elite martial artist rank, yet I can no longer progress. My son had the hope of stepping into the great martial artist realm. He was my hope and the hope of our Mo family, but now he is dead and he died right here in the Mo family. How do you expect me to stay calm? Just then, a powerful aura approached from nearby. All the Mo family disciples bowed their heads, showing expressions of reverence. Even Moen calmed down slightly. They knew this was the Mo family's only great martial artist, the old ancestor Mo Changking. Old ancestor, Xiao Bei is dead. Moen knelt on the ground, looking at the old ancestor with a face full of tears. I know. Mo Changking was also burning with rage, but things had already come to this. The only path forward was to find the murderer and avenge Mo Xiaobei. Mo Changking arrived at the scene, first glancing at Lai Hai's corpse, then at Mo Xiaobei's. Lai Hai was killed by a single sneak attack assassination. As for Mo Xiaobei, someone broke into the room and forcibly killed him with 2 slashes. This person's strength should be at the early stage of the martial artist rank. They use a blade as a weapon and are skilled in concealment, otherwise they couldn't have entered the Mo family estate. Moreover, they prevented a martial artist like Lai Hai from even sensing their presence. This is definitely no ordinary concealment method, Mo Changking judged. Anying, Moen thought of someone, his killing intent becoming incredibly thick. It should be Anying, Mo Changking nodded. Only a martial artist with a special talent like Anying could insta-kill Lai Hai and even force a kill on Xiao Bei. Anying is an assassin. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't strike against the children of major families unless someone offered a reward Anying couldn't refuse. In an instant, the Mo family's high-ranking members turned their focus towards several major families hostile to the Mo family. It was no big secret that Mo Xiaobei had medium-tier talent. Given sufficient resources, the Mo family might have produced a second great martial artist within the next 10 years. At that time, the Mo family's power would have surely expanded, which was certainly not something certain families wanted to see. It was not impossible that they had sent Anying to assassinate Mo Xiaobei. Investigate. We must find out which family did this. Also, put a bounty on Anying at all costs. I want Anying to regret this for the rest of his life. Chapter 17, Entering the Wilderness. Chapter 17, Entering the Wilderness. Second update. The Mo family targeted Shadow and several other great families as the culprits, never expecting that the one who acted was actually a martial apprentice. Thus, no matter how much the Mo family investigated, it was in vain because they simply couldn't find anything. Shadow is already dead. How could they find Shadow? It could be said that as long as Ye Tian didn't intentionally reveal the Black Shadow blade and Shadow talent, it was impossible for the Mo family to find him. In the following days, Ye Tian practiced the body forging method every day, pretending to know nothing to temporarily lie low, while Coastal Base was in an uproar due to Mo Xiaobei's death. The death of a medium-tier cultivation talent genius made the Mo family go completely insane, leading to conflicts with several families where many people died in secret. Finally, the disputes stopped under the intervention of the Lin family, the strongest family in Coastal Base. As time passed and the Mo family still couldn't find Shadow, they believed Shadow had fled Coastal Base and had to accept the loss. Though the secret bounty on Shadow was not withdrawn, as soon as Shadow showed his face, he would face the Mo family's frantic revenge. 10 days later, Coastal Base was peaceful, and Ye Tian prepared to leave Coastal Base to enter the vast wilderness to hunt vicious beasts. Only enough vicious beast blood would be sufficient for him to cultivate to the martial artist level in a short time. Moreover, even after reaching the martial artist level, vicious beast blood would be needed as an aid to quickly improve his strength. But once he entered the wilderness, he wouldn't be back for a day or two, so he had to explain things to his sister. Ye Tian made up a random excuse, saying the academy was taking a group of outstanding apprentices for closed cultivation and wouldn't be back for a short time. His sister didn't understand and naturally believed him easily. This time, Ye Tian brought 2 blades. one black shadow blade to use when no one was around, and a newly bought refined iron blade to use when people were present, along with some daily necessities. With everything ready, Ye Tian walked towards the outside of the base, East City Gate. A group of soldiers was patrolling. These soldiers were basically martial apprentices, with only the squad leaders being martial artists. After all, martial artists held high status and wouldn't be used to guard gates. In fact, the base had many martial apprentice soldiers. After all, if vicious beasts attacked the base, they wouldn't be able to stop them without enough manpower. So recruiting a large number of martial apprentice soldiers was necessary. Being a soldier was also one of the most promising professions in coastal base, though the risk was also high. Every year, countless soldiers died at the hands of vicious beasts. Ye Tian passed through the city gate and walked out. A soldier looked at Ye Tian's back and shook his head. Another martial apprentice who wants to get rich overnight. Does he think the wilderness is like inside the base? In less than a day, this kid is as good as dead. Clearly, he took Ye Tian for one of those martial apprentices who risked their lives for money. In fact, there were many such martial apprentices. If they were lucky enough to find a vicious beast corpse in the wilderness and bring it back, they wouldn't have to work hard for at least several years. Under the lure of huge profits, many martial apprentices naturally took the risk. The area within 1 or 2 kilometers outside the base was basically safe because any vicious beasts entering the base's vicinity would have been killed by martial artists long ago, unless a beast tide occurred. To hunt vicious beasts, one had to go further away. Ye Tian's destination was a habitat for vicious beasts, Zhaoqing Mountain. It was said that 100 years ago, Zhaoqing Mountain was just a small mountain range, but the earth had expanded hundreds of times, and Zhaoqing Mountain had turned into a massive range. Within the mountains, ancient trees reached the sky, and vicious beasts were everywhere, effectively becoming a paradise for them. Rumor has it that there are advanced vicious beasts in the depths of Zhaoqing Mountain, or even existences above advanced vicious beasts. I wonder if it's true. Ye Tian thought to himself while traveling, advanced vicious beasts were terrifying existences that only great martial artists could deal with. Once encountered, even an elite martial artist would find it hard to escape. Ye Tian's goal was naturally not the depths of Zhaoqing Mountain. He only planned to secretly hunt a few vicious beasts on the outskirts. However, less than 10 minutes after leaving the base, and before reaching Zhaoqing Mountain, he encountered a vicious beast. Iron-armored bull. Ye Tian looked at the massive 3-meter-long iron-armored bull in front of him, his expression solemn. The iron-armored bull was not a novice vicious beast like the spotted snake. It was a true low-level vicious beast. Whether in strength or defense, it far surpassed the spotted snake. Even an ordinary early-stage martial artist would be helpless against an iron-armored bull. Normally, it would take several martial artists working together to kill this iron-armored bull. Ye Tian held his refined iron blade and activated his speed talent, striking the iron-armored bull's neck with a shadow kill strike bang. The refined iron blade felt as if it had struck steel. Only a white mark appeared on the iron-armored bull's neck. It didn't even break the skin. The quality of this refined iron blade is too poor, and my strength is only 800 jin. I simply can't break the iron-armored bull's defense. Ye Tian thought helplessly. Immediately, he took out the black shadow blade. The black shadow blade was much sharper than the refined iron blade, at least capable of breaking the iron-armored bull's defense. Since there was no one around, he wasn't afraid of exposing his identity. Kill. Ye Tian turned into a series of afterimages, launching attack after attack on the iron-armored bull with incredible speed. The iron-armored bull intended to trample Ye Tian to death, but speed was its major flaw. It was much slower than Ye Tian and simply couldn't land an attack. After a minute of countless attacks, the iron-armored bull finally collapsed to the ground. Collect vicious beast blood. Ye Tian took out a water bottle and collected 10 portions of vicious beast blood before stopping. As for the remaining blood, he didn't take it. It wasn't that he didn't want to collect it, but he couldn't carry it. However, he still cut off 10 jin of iron-armored bull meat. It was said that the quality of iron-armored bull meat was good, and the taste was excellent. Continuing forward, An hour later, Ye Tian arrived at Zioking Mountain. Along the way, he wasn't without danger. He encountered small beast groups several times and once met a very powerful vicious beast, sensing its powerful pressure from a distance. Each time, he found a dark spot and entered his shadow state just in time to escape with his life. Otherwise, he would have died at the hands of vicious beasts long ago. He truly realized the danger of the wilderness. In the wilderness, without a team acting together, the chance of a single person falling was over 50%. Even a hunting squad could be wiped out if they were unlucky. This was with not many vicious beasts near the base. In further places, the number of vicious beasts was appallingly high, and they were terrifyingly strong. Even all the martial artists of Coastal Base going together would just be fodder. Ye Tian had heard his parents mention before that Coastal Base was just in a remote corner with few resources nearby, so even powerful vicious beasts were unwilling to come here. Otherwise, Coastal Base would have been destroyed long ago. Upon arriving at Zioking Mountain, Ye Tian was in no hurry to hunt vicious beasts. He had already obtained 10 portions of low-level vicious beast blood and planned to cultivate for a few days before hunting more. So he searched around and finally found a hidden small cave to stay in for the time being. Chapter 18. Saber Intent and Advancing to Martial Artist. Third update: this cave should be a vicious beast's lair, but judging from the condition of the cave, no vicious beast has entered for a long time. That vicious beast likely died long ago. Cultivating in this cave should be safe for now, Ye Tian judged. Thus, he began to cultivate with peace of mind. Taking a large gulp of low-level vicious beast blood, Ye Tian began to cultivate the body forging method. With an ample supply of low-level vicious beast blood, Ye Tian cultivated in the cave for a full 5 days, and his strength broke through once again, reaching 900 jin of force. However, after reaching 900 jin of force, increasing his strength further became somewhat difficult. The effect of the low-level vicious beast blood was weakening. Ye Tian had long known about this situation. His situation was relatively good. Although slow, he was still making progress. On the other hand, martial apprentices with low talent found it hard to advance even a single step after reaching 900 jin, needing to spend more time and energy to increase their strength bit by bit to finally break through the bottleneck. After exhausting the vicious beast blood, Ye Tian hunted vicious beasts on Little Green Mountain. Every time he killed a vicious beast, he would return to the cave to cultivate. As for his daily food, it was all replaced by vicious beast meat. The nutrition and energy of vicious beast meat were far beyond what ordinary food could compare to, and to a certain extent, it also increased Ye Tian's strength. Hunting, cultivating, hunting again. Just like that, a month passed the cave. Ye Tian finished today's cultivation and sensed the strength in his body. I'm close to 1,000 jin of force. However, since yesterday, my strength hasn't increased. I must have reached the threshold of a martial apprentice and am in a state of bottleneck. Once I break through the bottleneck, I can advance to the level of a martial artist, Ye Tian murmured. As for how to impact the bottleneck, he didn't think about it, but instead began to cultivate blade techniques. During this month, he occasionally cultivated blade techniques. Although his cultivation time was short, he did possess medium saber talent, so his progress was not slow. Now, his bronze-level blade skill Shadow Kill had already been cultivated to the peak of minor achievement, but reaching the stage of major achievement was extremely difficult. According to the secret manual, if one's Blade Dao realm hasn't reached the level of Saber Intent, it's very hard to train a bronze-level blade skill to major achievement. My Blade Dao realm is already at the perfection of Saber form, just one step away from Saber Intent. Next, I'll comprehend Saber Intent, Ye Tian decided. Saber Intent is the release of one's own comprehension of the blade, forming a unique aura. Only with enough comprehension of blade techniques can one grasp Saber Intent. Ye Tian didn't know how to comprehend Saber Intent, so he practiced his blade incessantly. Strike after strike, he continuously comprehended the mysteries contained within the blade techniques. When tired, he would drink vicious beast blood and cultivate the body forging method for a while. Like this, another half-month passed on this day. Ye Tian had an epiphany. Countless insights into the blade flooded his mind, and he couldn't help but close his eyes. Gradually, his aura changed, pressing down on the surrounding air like a blade, making the air around him turn thick. Boom. Saber intent erupted. An invisible saber kai struck the surrounding stone walls, causing countless stone dust to fall from the walls. Saber intent achieved. Ye Tian smiled slightly. Suddenly, he felt a certain shackle in his body break. Could it be? Ye Tian thought of a possibility, so he quickly gulped down several mouthfuls of vicious beast blood and began to cultivate the body forging method. Waves of vicious beast blood energy flooded his entire body, tempering every part of him. Different from before, Ye Tian clearly sensed a powerful force emerging from all parts of his body, accelerating the tempering of his physical body and making his physical strength grow stronger and stronger. He knew he had made a breakthrough and was advancing from a martial apprentice to the level of a martial artist. After an unknown amount of time, the transformation of his body ended. Ye Tian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and then clenched his fists. Sensing the powerful force contained in his body, he was instantly overjoyed. It's much stronger than before. My strength has definitely broken the limit of 1,000 jin. I have indeed advanced to a martial artist. Ye Tian had advanced to a martial artist. His goal for coming to the wilderness this time was accomplished. However, he didn't plan on returning just yet. He intended to return after cultivating Shadow Kill to the stage of major achievement. Having comprehended saber intent, Ye Tian's understanding of blade techniques deepened. In just 3 days, he had completely grasped Shadow Kill to the major achievement stage. The speed of Shadow Kill at the major achievement stage was fast to the extreme. Even a martial artist at the late stage might find it difficult to dodge this move if they weren't paying attention. In terms of strength, I estimate I can contend with a martial artist at the middle stage, but compared to the late stage, there's still a significant gap. The strength of a martial artist at the late stage is too powerful, and they have origin power protecting their bodies. No matter how formidable Shadow Kill is, it's useless if I can't break the opponent's defense, Ye Tian thought to himself. Additionally, Ye Tian discovered that the body forging method could no longer help him increase his strength. It was said that a martial artist could absorb origin kai to increase their strength, but he didn't know how to refine origin kai. Therefore, he had to return to coastal base to continue increasing his strength. It's time to head back. Ye Tian packed his things, wrapped up the vicious beast materials he had obtained during this time, walked out of the cave, and headed towards Coastal Base. Coastal Base, East City Gate. Not having returned for a month, Ye Tian's clothes were tattered, his face was very dirty, and his body even emitted a strange stench. However, the soldiers guarding the gate didn't dare to look down on him. They all cast looks of envy and respect. They knew Ye Tian was a martial artist, and one who had stayed in the wilderness for a long time at that. Such martial artists were the most difficult to provoke. After entering Coastal Base, Ye Tian didn't go home but found a nearby inn to stay in. He took a bath and changed his clothes before returning home. When he returned home and saw Ye studying, he truly breathed a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that something might have happened to Ye at home during his month-long absence, but fortunately, everything was normal. The next morning, early, Ye Tian went out. He was going to the martial artist black market. The martial artist black market was located underground. It was a place frequently visited by martial artists and served as their area of activity. Martial apprentices and ordinary people were not qualified to enter the martial artist black market. Only martial artists could enter. Ye Tian had long heard of the martial artist black market, but had never been inside, so he was very curious about everything within. Now that he had finally stepped into the martial artist level, he naturally had to go and take a look. More importantly, he needed to buy some things he required at the martial artist black market. Chapter 19. The Girl with High-Grade Talent. Fourth update and entrance to the black market. Ye Tian looked at the 2 martial artists guarding the entrance and walked straight toward them. The 2 martial artists sized Ye Tian up. Finding him unfamiliar but sensing the aura of a martial artist from him, they did not block his path. After entering through the entrance, a stone staircase led downwards. Soon, Ye Tian arrived at the true underground black market. The black market was vast, at least as large as a grand plaza. There were many shops here, with many martial artists walking about. Ye Tian found a shop that purchased vicious beast materials and sold the materials from the beasts he had hunted. He received a total of 200,000 yuan, which could be considered a small harvest. Martial Pavilion. Ye Tian arrived at the entrance of this shop and sized it up carefully. In terms of area and scale, this shop was undoubtedly the largest one in the black market. Entering the Martial Pavilion, a female shop assistant who was a martial apprentice walked up to Ye Tian and said respectfully, "Lord Martial Artist, may I ask if there is anything you need to purchase?" "Our Martial Pavilion sells all kinds of items. Most things can be bought here." "Does your Martial Pavilion have secret manuals for martial artist cultivation?" Ye Tian asked. The female assistant smiled and said, "Is Lord Martial Artist referring to the origin power body tempering method?" "However, our Martial Pavilion only has low-level origin power body tempering methods. As for higher-level body forging methods, they are only available in the large bases. Origin power body tempering method. This was the first time Ye Tian had heard this name. He couldn't be blamed for not knowing. It was mainly because the upper echelons of coastal base managed knowledge regarding martial artists very strictly. It was difficult for martial apprentices and ordinary people to come into contact with this kind of knowledge, and the academy would not teach too much martial artist knowledge either. Clearly, this was a tacit rule among the high-level officials of coastal base. "Does your Martial Pavilion have an item list? I'd like to take a look before purchasing," Ye Tian said after thinking for a moment. "Yes, we do." The female assistant nodded and quickly brought over an item list. This item list recorded many things, not only the origin power body tempering method, but also vicious beast blood, healing medicinal liquids, weapons, secret techniques, rare treasures, and so on. Some precious treasures were worth several million yuan for just a single piece. Originally, Ye Tian thought he was quite wealthy, but after seeing these items, he realized his money was not much at all. At most, it was only enough for his cultivation at the martial artist level. One low-level origin power body tempering method, one set of martial artist information, 3 portions of medium-tier vicious beast blood, 1 vicious beast atlas, and 3 bottles of clear source liquid. Ye Tian listed them one by one. The female assistant calculated. The low-level origin power body tempering method is 50,000 yuan. The martial artist information is 10,000 yuan. 3 portions of medium-tier vicious beast blood are 500,000 yuan. The vicious beast atlas is 20,000 yuan, and 3 bottles of clear source liquid are 1 million yuan. The total is 1.58 million yuan. Spending 1.58 million yuan all at once made even Ye Tian feel a bit of heartache. Fortunately, he had obtained the assets of Shadow Lai Kun and was quite wealthy. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to afford such a purchase. After paying the money, Ye Tian received the items. Just as Ye Tian was preparing to leave, the female assistant spoke up. "Lord Martial Artist, the manager of our Martial Pavilion wishes to meet you. I wonder if you have the time. The manager of the Martial Pavilion wants to see me." Ye Tian frowned slightly, somewhat unwilling to go, but after thinking it over, he felt it would be better to meet. He was actually curious about what the manager of the Martial Pavilion wanted with him. Led by the female assistant, Ye Tian arrived at the 2nd floor of the Martial Pavilion. Here, he met the manager of the Martial Pavilion. A girl. Ye Tian was somewhat surprised. He had originally thought the manager of the Martial Pavilion would be a middle-aged man or an old man, but he hadn't expected it to be a girl, and not very old either, at most around 18 or 19. Subconsciously, he checked the talent situation of the Martial Pavilion's manager. With one look, his heart was instantly filled with immense shock. Human, Yuling cultivation talent, high-grade sword technique talent, medium-tier speed talent, lesser a genius, a true genius. This was the first true genius Ye Tian had seen since transmigrating. Compared to Yuling, Mo Xiaobei and the others were simply trash. To think she has high-grade talent and also possesses medium-tier sword technique talent and lesser speed talent. Given her age and background, she's likely already an elite martial artist, Ye Tian thought. Immediately, he became excited. He didn't care much for the medium-tier sword technique talent because he already had medium-tier saber talent. Even if he copied the medium-tier sword technique talent, it would be difficult to increase his strength. But he wanted to copy both the lesser speed talent and the high-grade cultivation talent. The lesser speed talent could make his elementary speed talent even stronger, and the high-grade cultivation talent could allow his talent to transform into high-grade cultivation talent. My copy talent can be used again, but currently I can only copy one. Although the lesser speed talent is useful, it's not that significant. It's better to copy the high-grade cultivation talent. After all, after today, I might not have another chance to come into contact with Yu Ling. Thus, Ye Tian revealed a pure smile and extended his slightly immature right hand. "Hello, my name is Ye Tian." Yu Ling hesitated slightly, but still extended her jade-like right hand, lightly shaking Ye Tian's hand before instantly withdrawing it. What Yu Ling didn't know was that in the instant Ye Tian touched her right hand, he had copied her high-grade cultivation talent. Success! Ye Tian was overjoyed, his heart practically blooming with laughter. "Hello, I am the manager of the Martial Pavilion, Yu Ling." Yu Ling introduced herself, and with a glance, she dismissed the female assistant. "Manager Yu, what is the matter you wanted to see me for?" Ye Tian asked, getting straight to the point. Yu Ling sat down, staring at Ye Tian, and asked, "Ye Tian, you must have just been promoted to a martial artist, right? Do you know the origin of our martial pavilion?" "I indeed just became a martial artist. As for the origin of the martial pavilion, I'm not clear, but I presume it's a major power from coastal base," Ye Tian said. "No." Yu Ling shook her head. "Our martial pavilion is not a power of coastal base. Although coastal base is only a small power and finds it difficult to contact other bases, some large bases have still established branches here. Because coastal base's geographical location is special, those bases are concerned about something happening to it. To those large bases, coastal base is a gateway. So no matter how weak coastal base is, they will still send people to be stationed here. And the martial pavilion comes from a large base. From a large base. Ye Tian showed a look of realization. No wonder the martial pavilion could sell so many treasures, and he had already guessed Yu Ling's identity. She must come from a large base and have a very noble status. But what was Yu Ling doing at coastal base? This was just a small base. "Manager, you called me here for?" Ye Tian asked, even more puzzled. "Are you willing to join the martial pavilion? I see that you are at most 16 or 17 years old, yet you have already reached the martial artist level. More importantly, you don't come from any of the major families in coastal base, which makes you even more valuable. So I want to invite you to join the martial pavilion." Yu Ling said truthfully, "Manager Yu, I don't want to join any power for the time being." Ye Tian refused without even thinking. Chapter 20. Cultivating the Origin Power Body Tempering Method First Update. Just kidding. Joining the martial pavilion would only bring him disadvantages, with no advantages. If Ye Tian were merely a medium-tier or high-level cultivation talent, he would definitely join the martial pavilion, because the martial pavilion is a massive organization with countless resources, and he would absolutely receive the best training there. But he can continuously improve his talent, and might even become the person with the highest talent on Earth. Joining the martial pavilion would inevitably require talent testing. If his talent kept improving in the future, how could he explain that? Could he keep explaining that he obtained a treasure capable of improving his talent? Fooling them once might work, but no one would believe it every time. Even if the martial pavilion valued him greatly, they would covet the secret on his person, and his ability to copy talents would be exposed. Ye Tian was very clear about his own situation. He would not join any organization, otherwise troubles would be endless. However, in the future, he could establish his own organization. "You actually refused?" Yu Ling was shocked. "Do you know how vast our martial pavilion is? Sending out just one powerful member is enough to annihilate the entire coastal base." She couldn't understand why Ye Tian would give up such a great opportunity. One must know that even in large bases, the number of geniuses wanting to join the martial pavilion is countless, yet they often lack the chance. I really don't want to join any organization, Ye Tian said again. Forget it then. Yu Ling no longer insisted on Ye Tian joining the martial pavilion. After chatting for a few more sentences, Ye Tian left. After Ye Tian left, an old man walked over from the neighboring room. Miss, why did you invite a warrior from a small base? Even if this person is young, what kind of genius could a tiny coastal base possibly have? At most, it's just medium-tier cultivation talent. A genius with medium-tier cultivation talent isn't considered a genius in a large base at all, unless it's a medium-tier cultivation genius with a special talent. That's what our martial pavilion needs, the old man asked, puzzled. It's nothing. I just thought it was nice to encounter such a young warrior in a small place like Coastal Base, so I tried to recruit him. Originally, I planned to take him on as an attendant, but he wasn't even willing to join the martial pavilion, so naturally, he wouldn't be willing to become my attendant. Yu Ling said lightly. To Yu Ling and the old man, Ye Tian was just an insignificant person. But this time, for Ye Tian, it was no less than a small stroke of fortune. Ye Tian was destined to stay in Coastal Base for a long time. He originally thought it would be a long time before he could copy a high-level cultivation talent, but now he had encountered a genius from a large base and successfully copied a high-level cultivation talent. Originally, Ye Tian thought he would need quite some time to advance to the elite warrior level, but after obtaining the high-level cultivation talent, he felt he could advance to the elite warrior level in at most a year or two, returning home. Ye Yu had gone to school, leaving only Ye Tian at home. Without any reservations, he directly began the fusion. Boom! A long-absent, intense pain surged into his mind, and his entire body felt as if it were being torn apart. 10 minutes passed. Ye Tian felt a wave of comfort throughout his body and let out a long sigh of relief. Focusing his mind, he observed his own talent situation. Human, Ye Tian cultivation talent, high-speed talent, low blade talent, medium-tier shadow talent, low. My high cultivation talent is the fusion of my original medium-tier cultivation talent and Yu Ling's high cultivation talent. In terms of talent, my talent is even stronger than Yu Ling's, Ye Tian thought to himself. Afterwards, he took out the Origin Power Body Tempering method, examined it carefully, and then read through the warrior materials again. After a long time, Ye Tian finally gained a general understanding of warrior cultivation. Actually, the body tempering technique practiced by martial apprentices is truly called the basic body tempering technique. Warriors also need to temper their bodies. For warriors, the body is the foundation of everything. The Origin Power Body Tempering method practiced by warriors is different from the basic body tempering technique. The basic body tempering technique focuses on developing the body's potential and tempering the physique, while the warrior's Origin Power Body Tempering method focuses on absorbing the world's primordial energy, refining it into Yuan power stored in the Danshan. And then, with the help of the Origin Power Body Tempering method, tempering the flesh body, in the early warrior stage, one tempers the skin. In the mid-warrior stage, one tempers the muscles. In the late warrior stage, one tempers the bones. Once skin tempering, muscle tempering, and bone tempering are all completed, one reaches the peak warrior realm. At this stage, a warrior possesses the strength of 10,000 jin, and after using Yuan power, a peak warrior can exert double the strength, equivalent to 20,000 jin. According to the warrior materials, 10,000 jin is the limit for warriors, and 100,000 jin is the limit for elite warriors. As for the limit of grand warriors, it's not mentioned, but even 100,000 jin is too terrifying. Ye Tian gasped in astonishment. At this moment, he truly recognized the strength of warriors, far greater than he had imagined. He was still very weak, with only a little over 1,000 jin of strength, and he hadn't even started cultivating the Origin Power Body Tempering method or formed Yuan power yet. He couldn't even be considered a true early-stage warrior. Begin cultivation. Following the 9 movements of the Origin Power Body Tempering method, Ye Tian began to draw in the primordial energy from the world. Boom. Streams of primordial energy surged from the surroundings into Ye Tian's body through his pores, and under the effect of the origin power body tempering method, transformed into strands of Yuan power that entered his dantian. Subsequently, the Yuan power rushed out from the dantian, spreading to his skin and began to temper it. Immediately, a tingling sensation emanated from his skin, accompanied by a hint of pain. Ye Tian knew this was skin tempering. Only by tempering the skin to be very strong could the flesh body withstand weapons. While tempering his skin, Ye Tian could also clearly sense his strength increasing, much more noticeably than the increases during his martial apprentice days. Even if a person with poor talent becomes a warrior, it's very difficult for them to absorb primordial energy when cultivating the origin power body tempering method. For example, a warrior with low cultivation talent might only absorb a few strands of energy in half a day, their cultivation speed as slow as a turtle's crawl. Those with substandard cultivation talent can't absorb primordial energy at all. After becoming warriors, they lose their path forward. Even using intermediate monster beast blood, they struggle to absorb it to enhance their strength. But with my high cultivation talent, I can absorb so much primordial energy. The difference in talent is too obvious. Ye Tian pondered while cultivating. After cultivating for a while, Ye Tian tried using intermediate monster beast blood to assist his cultivation. Intermediate monster beast blood contains powerful blood energy, which can better temper the flesh body and skin. Therefore, using intermediate monster beast blood to assist cultivation is far more effective than cultivating the origin power body tempering method alone. And with his high cultivation talent, his absorption effect of intermediate monster beast blood far surpassed that of someone with medium-tier cultivation talent. Soon, he tested it out. A threefold amplification effect, capable of tripling cultivation speed at the warrior level. This is already quite excellent, Ye Tian said with great satisfaction. Target, Immortal Jellyfish, Chapter 21. Target, Immortal Jellyfish. Second update, after only cultivating for a few days, Ye Tian felt a bit distressed. It wasn't that his progress was slow, but rather that the movements for a martial artist's cultivation were too large. Although there were only 9 movements, every action of a martial artist could shake the air, and the rooms at home were too small. He might accidentally break things in the house. It's time to move. This place is at the edge of the base. Once a vicious beast breaks into the base, this area will definitely be attacked first. It's too dangerous to live here. I'm not afraid, but my younger sister hasn't started cultivating yet, so she naturally has no means of defense. In the future, I will definitely enter the wild frequently, and I'm afraid I won't be able to protect her. I must move to the small villa area in the center of the base. Ye Tian decided. The small villa area in the center of the base was very safe. Unless the base was breached, it was unlikely to be affected. However, the houses there were also incredibly expensive. Any small villa would cost 10 million yuan, which an ordinary family simply couldn't afford. Ye Tian still had about 2 million yuan on him. Combined with his status as a martial artist, he could get a loan. The base's bank could lend to him, which would be enough to buy a small villa. Lunchtime, Ye Tian discussed with Yu. Yu, I'm planning to move to the small villa area in the center of the base. I took a look and the central garden community is quite good. Yu's eyes widened. She walked over and felt Ye Tian's forehead. Brother, you don't have a fever, do you? A small villa in central garden costs at least 10 million yuan. That's not a place where we can live. Where did you learn that from, you little girl? Ye Tian lightly flicked Yu's head and then said with a smile, your brother has money now. As he spoke, Ye Tian placed 2 gold cards on the table. There's 2 million here. Plus, since your brother is now a martial artist, I can get a loan. Ye Tian held his head high and said proudly, ah, brother, you're a martial artist now. Yu was so shocked that she covered her small mouth, her face full of disbelief. She remembered that her brother had only been cultivating for half a year. To become a martial artist so quickly, his speed was simply too fast. Yeah, I just had a breakthrough, but you can't tell anyone else. After all, your brother is such a genius. What if others get jealous and it's bad for our family? Ye Tian said quickly. MHM, brother, I promise I won't say a word. Ye's little head nodded incessantly, her eyes filled with joy. She felt extremely proud to have such a genius brother. Over the next few days, Ye Tian went to handle the purchase procedures. In this era, there weren't any troublesome procedures like obtaining property certificates. Only a contract needed to be signed. The small villas were already renovated, but what was called renovation seemed very simple to Ye Tian, similar to an ancient courtyard style, not at all like the modern villas he had imagined. Perhaps those large bases could build modern villas, but coastal base didn't have that capability, mainly because the cost was too high. The only thing that comforted Ye Tian was that the small villa was quite large, with a 50-square-meter courtyard, 5 rooms, 2 living rooms, and 2 bathrooms. The total area of the villa reached 400 square meters. This was still considered a small villa in coastal base because the base didn't lack space. When the base was built, it was made very large, yet the entire base had only a few 100,000 people. The situation of having few people and plenty of land led to this. After the villa was bought, Ye Tian began to move. There weren't many things in the house. In just half a day, he and his sister officially moved into the small villa in Central Garden. However, this villa didn't truly belong to Ye Tian yet. If Ye Tian were to perish or be unable to repay the loan, the small villa would be taken back. Therefore, Ye Tian wanted to pay off this loan as soon as possible. But a loan of 8 million yuan was not a small amount. Even for a martial artist, earning that much money would take a long time. An ordinary martial artist would probably take 10 or even dozens of years to repay it, but Ye Tian felt he wouldn't need that much time. With his speed of hunting vicious beasts, it definitely wouldn't take too long to repay these debts. Over the next half-month or so, Ye Tian entered the wild every day to hunt vicious beasts. He chose small-sized vicious beasts and immediately brought them back to the base after killing them. He hunted 1 a day, with each worth an average of 200,000 yuan. In just over half a month, he earned as much as 3 million. Such crazy hunting of vicious beasts was something other martial artists didn't dare to do. It wasn't that they lacked strength, but that it was too dangerous. Who could guarantee they would return safely every time? Most martial artists wouldn't push themselves so hard. After all, if they encountered a powerful vicious beast, they wouldn't even have time to escape. But Ye Tian's speed was very fast. Even at the early stage of the martial artist realm, his speed surpassed that of the late stage. Combined with the advantage of his shadow talent, this was why he dared to hunt vicious beasts so frantically. After the frantic hunting, Ye Tian planned to take a break for a while. Instead of leaving the base, he would focus all his efforts on cultivating to increase his strength. In the blink of an eye, another half-month passed. With plenty of vicious beast blood and the advantage of his high-grade cultivation talent, Ye Tian's strength increased significantly once more. He now possessed 2,000 jin of force, and his skin had been tempered to be extremely tough, enough to withstand ordinary refined iron weapons. In the words of his past life, his physical body was enough to resist bullets. Unfortunately, there were no bullets in this era. That day, Ye Tian went to the black market again. He wasn't there to sell vicious beast materials, but to buy something. Martial Pavilion, subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. I want to buy a map of Death Lake, Ye Tian said. Death Lake was a lake located 10 kilometers outside of coastal base, and there were many vicious beasts around it. The reason the lake was called by this name was that there were many terrifying aquatic vicious beasts within Death Lake. Even an elite martial artist would find it hard to survive if they went in, hence the name Death Lake. The reason Ye Tian wanted to go to Death Lake was that he had set his sights on a type of aquatic vicious beast, the immortal jellyfish. Before the Origin Kai era, the immortal jellyfish was a microscopic marine organism. But with the arrival of the Origin Kai era, the immortal jellyfish underwent a transformation. It no longer lived only in the ocean and was no longer restricted by its environment. Its survival ability greatly increased, and this creature appeared in a very small number of lakes. There were immortal jellyfish in Death Lake, and in quite large numbers. One could say that the immortal jellyfish was an earth creature, not a species of vicious beast from the spatial cracks. However, the strength of the immortal jellyfish was also extremely high. Their size had increased many times over, to about the size of a human palm, and this creature was very difficult to kill. Even a martial artist would find it hard to eliminate an immortal jellyfish, while the immortal jellyfish's tentacles could pierce through a martial artist's body. It was said that even an elite martial artist would have to flee upon seeing a swarm of immortal jellyfish. Otherwise, death was certain. When he saw this type of vicious beast, Ye Tian took an interest in the immortal jellyfish's ability. He felt that the immortal jellyfish must possess some kind of healing or recovery talent. Once he copied it, his survival capability would definitely improve by several levels. Although going to Death Lake was a bit risky, the harvest from the adventure would definitely be worth it. Chapter 22. Death Lake 3rd Update. There are 10,000 credit maps of Death Lake, and there are 100,000 credit ones. Which one would you like, martial artist? The female shop assistant asked seriously. What is the difference? Ye Tian asked. The 10,000 credit one only has the general terrain and simple information, while the 100,000 credit map has the most detailed information, even including introductions to many types of aquatic vicious beasts in Death Lake and their weaknesses. The female shop assistant replied. Give me the 100,000 credit map, Ye Tian said. A mere 100,000 credits meant nothing to him. Learning a bit more about Death Lake was naturally good, as it could help avoid many dangers. After paying the 100,000 credits, Ye Tian obtained the map of Death Lake and immediately bought some healing medicine. The 3 bottles of Qingyuan liquid he had previously purchased were considered quite good among healing liquids. He had already used 1 bottle, so he didn't need to buy more of that level. However, he could buy more medicine for minor injuries, as it would be too wasteful to use Qingyuan liquid for minor wounds. After buying the items, Ye Tian gave some instructions to Yi Yu and then left coastal base. The 10-kilometer journey was not easy. Ye Tian was extremely cautious, taking a full half-day to arrive at Death Lake. Boom! From not far away, the sounds of battle could be heard. Someone is here. Ye Tian was somewhat surprised. Death Lake was considered a relatively dangerous place, and it was quite far from coastal base. Even an elite martial artist wouldn't need to travel this far to hunt vicious beasts, so why would a martial artist be here? I need to be careful, Ye Tian thought to himself. Martial artists could coexist peacefully in coastal base, but that was not necessarily the case in the wilderness. Situations where they killed each other for resources were not rare. He walked slowly, making almost no sound, heading step by step towards Death Lake. The terrain of Death Lake was somewhat peculiar. It was surrounded by mountains on all sides, with a massive lake in the middle. However, the surrounding mountains were not very high. They could only be described as small hills. For Ye Tian, the only advantage was that there were many trees on the small hills and quite a few dark places, making it suitable for him to use his shadow talent to hide his figure. Soon, the figures of a group of people appeared in Ye Tian's line of sight. He hid in the darkness and observed carefully. It's her. Ye Tian saw a graceful figure. It was Yu Ling, whom he had seen at the martial pavilion. Yu Ling and her group were fighting a group of vicious beasts not far from Death Lake, and the battle was very intense. Giant crocodile vicious beasts. Ye Tian saw the appearance of the vicious beasts and was instantly stunned. These giant crocodile vicious beasts were all over 10 meters long, clearly intermediate vicious beasts. The leading giant crocodile was massive, reaching 20 meters in size. Every time its body moved, it was as if the earth were shaking and the mountains were swaying. Advanced vicious beast. Ye Tian was 100% certain that the giant crocodile leader was definitely an advanced vicious beast, equivalent to the great martial artist level among martial artists. The one fighting the advanced vicious beast was an old man. Being able to fight an advanced vicious beast to a standstill meant his cultivation must have reached the great martial artist level. 10 elite martial artists plus 1 great martial artist, and these warriors all seem to be centered around Yu Ling. They must be Yu Ling's guards. Strange, what is such a powerful team doing at Death Lake? Could it be that there is something Yu Ling needs in Death Lake? Ye Tian pondered. He continued to watch without revealing himself. Just then, a figure rushed out from Death Lake. It was a middle-aged martial artist who stepped on the surface of the lake without any signs of sinking, and his clothes were completely dry. A water-related talent, Ye Tian guessed. Such a talent was very convenient in water, but Ye Tian had no interest in copying it. Right now, the talent he most wanted to copy was that of the immortal jellyfish. "Young miss, I've got it, let's go." The middle-aged martial artist shouted in a panic. The middle-aged martial artist was very fast, reaching the shore in the blink of an eye and quickly handing an item to Yu Ling. Because the speed was too fast and Ye Tian was too far away, he couldn't see what the item was, but it was clearly an incredible treasure, perhaps the reason Yu Ling and her group came here. Suddenly, Death Lake surged, and a huge crocodile rushed out from the lake. Its massive body was like an ancient dragon crocodile, and its pressure spread for 1,000 meters, making even Ye Tian feel the air become viscous. Damn, what kind of monster did they provoke? This is a being above an advanced vicious beast, right? Ye Tian said in shock. At this moment, he finally understood. That advanced vicious beast giant crocodile was not a leader at all, but merely a squad leader. The giant crocodile that had just appeared was the true leader. "Young miss, it's a top-tier vicious beast. We will hold it off, you leave first." The old man's expression changed drastically. "Let's go together." Yu Ling gritted her teeth and said, "It's too late," the old man said in despair. They had never expected this situation. This was just a remote area, yet a top-tier vicious beast had appeared. This was a powerful vicious beast that only a grandmaster could deal with. He was only a great martial artist, and with that middle-aged man who was also at the great martial artist level, there were only 2 great martial artists in total. How could they possibly withstand a top-tier vicious beast? Swish, swish, swish. One elite martial artist after another rushed towards the top-tier giant crocodile vicious beast without hesitation, launching suicide attacks one after another. The old man pushed Yu Ling far away and immediately formed the last barrier with the middle-aged man. Yu Ling took one look and knew she couldn't save the others. She had to leave, otherwise they would all die here. But while Yu Ling wanted to leave, the other giant crocodiles did not want to let her go. One giant crocodile after another chased after Yu Ling, and Yu Ling dared not stop at all, fleeing for her life. Such fast speed, such powerful strength. Yu Ling's cultivation must be at the peak elite martial artist level. She could easily kill me in seconds, Ye Tian judged. No matter how strong Yu Ling was, it was difficult for her to fight such a group of giant crocodiles, and since her guards couldn't stop the top-tier vicious beast, they didn't buy her much time. Thus, Yu Ling staked everything. Boom. An aura belonging to a great martial artist erupted from Yu Ling's body. She had used a secret technique to forcibly raise her strength to that of a great martial artist. This was only a temporary boost. Once the time for the secret technique passed, she would definitely fall into a weakened state, and then she would be dead for sure. Die. Yu Ling pierced the skull of a giant crocodile with one sword strike and kicked another one away. Her combat power was off the charts. But there were too many giant crocodiles. She was soon knocked flying by one of them, and she sustained injuries, chasing all the way, fleeing all the way. Soon, Yu Ling was covered in injuries, and the number of giant crocodiles chasing her had dwindled. She didn't know how far she had fled. There were no more giant crocodiles behind Yu Ling, but her injuries were already very severe. Suddenly, Yu Ling's expression changed. Not good, the time for the secret technique is up. Then, she fell into despair. This was the wilderness, and she hadn't reached a safe area yet. The time for the secret technique was up, and she would inevitably fall into a weakened and unconscious state. At that point, any random vicious beast would be enough to kill her. Before she could think of a way, her consciousness faded and she collapsed to the ground. In the instant she lost consciousness, she seemed to see a figure appear beside her. Chapter 23, Yu Ling's Generous Gift. 4th update, I'm not dead. Yu Ling slowly woke up from her coma. Her first thought was confusion. According to the previous situation, she should have been dead for sure. The fact that she was still conscious meant she had been saved by someone. Could it be that some of my guards are still alive? Yu Ling said subconsciously, but instantly she dismissed the idea. Facing a top-tier vicious beast, it was impossible for her guards to still be alive. Opening her eyes, she found the surroundings were somewhat dark, but her keen senses told her someone was nearby. "You're awake," a slightly youthful voice drifted over. Although Yuling couldn't see the person's face clearly, she knew who it was from the voice. "Ye Tian, was it you who saved me?" She wanted to stand up, but her body was too weak, so she could only manage to sit up. "That's right. I happened to see you collapsed on the ground, so I brought you to this small cave." Ye Tian spoke up. "Thank you for saving me," Yuling said gratefully. "It's nothing, I just happened to run into you." Ye Tian smiled slightly. In truth, he had considered not saving Yuling. He could have even obtained the treasures and money on her person, but doing so would undoubtedly go against his conscience. Moreover, Yuling's nature wasn't bad. This could be seen from how she didn't have any extreme reaction when he refused to join the martial pavilion. If it were someone like Mo Xiaobei, he wouldn't just not save them, he would kick them while they were down, suddenly. A soft light emanated from Yuling's hand. It was a stone, but it acted like a light bulb, illuminating the dark cave brightly. Ye Tian was somewhat surprised. He had carried Yuling all the way to the cave and hadn't noticed this stone at all. If it had been there, he felt he would have sensed it. "This is a light stone. It can store light and is very rare. Even in large bases, only a few people have them," Yuling explained without hiding anything. She wasn't afraid of Ye Tian being greedy for a light stone. After all, this thing was just rare but not particularly valuable. If Ye Tian wanted one, she wouldn't mind giving him one. Yuling placed the light stone on a nearby rock, and then a bottle of healing liquid appeared in her hand. Drinking the healing liquid in one gulp, Yuling waited quietly for the liquid to recover her injuries. It appeared out of thin air. Ye Tian was certain that Yuling had suddenly produced this bottle of healing liquid. Creating something from nothing was impossible. In other words, Yuling must have the legendary storage equipment on her. Furthermore, the rank of Yuling's healing liquid was very high, much more advanced than his clear spring liquid. He had also given her a bottle of his clear spring liquid while she was unconscious, but it had only slightly alleviated her injuries. In contrast, Yuling's healing liquid allowed her skin wounds to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeming to notice Ye Tian's gaze, Yuling said with a smile, "You've never seen a storage pouch, have you? This thing is made from the spatial pocket of a space kangaroo, then refined slightly by a martial artist with space talent. It can be refined and used by a martial artist." "What is a space kangaroo?" Ye Tian asked curiously. As Yuling recounted, Ye Tian finally learned the origin of the space kangaroo. It was an advanced, vicious beast with great speed, immense strength, and high intelligence, making it a very difficult advanced, vicious beast to hunt. The pocket on a space kangaroo possesses spatial attributes and can store many things. It's called a spatial pocket. Once a space kangaroo is hunted, a martial artist with space talent can refine the spatial pocket to form a storage pouch. Of course, it wasn't only spatial pockets that could be refined into storage pouches. Any item with spatial attributes would work, but the space kangaroo's spatial pocket was the most practical and easiest material to find. "I've learned something new," Ye Tian couldn't help but sigh inwardly. It wasn't his fault for not knowing. After all, he only came from a small base like Coastal Base and naturally couldn't compare to Yuling, who came from a large base. For the next 2 days, Ye Tian stayed with Yuling. Since her injuries hadn't recovered, it wouldn't be right for him to leave alone to search for the immortal jellyfish. Although a bit of time was wasted, it wasn't without gain. He learned a lot of knowledge from Yuling's mouth. For example, the realms above great martial artist. In Coastal Base, a great martial artist was the strongest. There were only 1 or 2 on the surface, and even including those hidden in the shadows, the number didn't exceed double digits. But in a large base, a great martial artist could only be considered a mid-level martial artist. The realm above great martial artist was called a grandmaster-level martial artist. A grandmaster-level martial artist could sweep through a group of great martial artists, and their lifespan far exceeded that of ordinary people, reaching as much as 200 years. When Ye Tian learned that grandmaster-level experts could live for 200 years, he was instantly stunned. Thus, he gained another goal: to charge into the grandmaster-level realm. Unfortunately, becoming a grandmaster was far too difficult. Even those with high-grade cultivation talent had less than a 10% chance of becoming a grandmaster. Only those with top-tier cultivation talent had a 100% chance of becoming a grandmaster. Ye Tian, I'm preparing to head back to the large base. Once Yu Ling's injuries were mostly healed, she spoke up. Then stay safe on the road, Ye Tian said. Before leaving, Yu Ling tossed a bundle to Ye Tian. I think you might have a use for the things inside, so I'm giving them to you. Before Ye Tian could refuse, Yu Ling departed at a speed so fast that even he couldn't react in time. Seeing this, Ye Tian could only give a helpless smile. He opened the bundle and found a secret manual, 10 bottles of vicious beast blood and 10 gold cards. Holy cow, an intermediate primordial force body tempering method, 10 bottles of advanced vicious beast blood, and 10 gold cards equivalent to 10 million yuan. This gift is too heavy. Ye Tian was truly startled. The most precious among them was the intermediate primordial force body tempering method. He didn't know if the great families of coastal base possessed it, but ordinary martial artists had no way to obtain it. No amount of money could buy it. With the intermediate primordial force body tempering method, plus 10 bottles of advanced vicious beast blood, I'm confident I can advance to the elite martial artist level within 3 months. Ye Tian was extremely confident. Originally, he had planned to go to Death Lake immediately to find the immortal jellyfish, but now he had changed his mind. He planned to wait until he advanced to the elite martial artist level before going to Death Lake. It would be safer that way. Actually, now wasn't a suitable time to go to Death Lake anyway, because Yu Ling and the others had caused such a big commotion there. Those vicious beasts might be constantly watching for outside martial artists, so going now would be equivalent to seeking death. 3 months might be enough for Death Lake to calm down. Going then would undoubtedly be the best choice. Thus, Ye Tian prepared to return to Coastal Base. Chapter 24. Elite Martial Artist First Update. Nothing unexpected happened along the way, and Ye Tian returned safely to Coastal Base. The day after his return, Ye Tian went to the black market and purchased many portions of intermediate vicious beast blood, spending almost all of his 10 million yuan. If he had used the 10 million to repay his loan, he could have easily cleared it, but Ye Tian still chose to buy intermediate vicious beast blood. Although he had 10 bottles of advanced vicious beast blood, using it exclusively for cultivation wouldn't even last 3 months. Cultivating with advanced vicious beast blood occasionally, while using intermediate vicious beast blood as a supplement the rest of the time, was the most effective way to cultivate. The villa's small courtyard. Ye Tian stood there and began to cultivate the intermediate primordial force body tempering method. It only consisted of 9 movements, but each one was far more profound and complex than those of the low-level Yuan Kai body tempering method. As he performed the intermediate primordial force body tempering method, incredibly dense origin Kai surged into Ye Tian's body, and his refinement speed was much faster than with the low-level Yuan Kai body tempering method. It's 3 times more effective than the low-level Yuan Kai body tempering method. Ye Tian was shocked. This was just from cultivating the intermediate primordial force body tempering method alone. If supplemented with vicious beast blood, the effect would be even faster because the intermediate primordial force body tempering method could utilize vicious beast blood more efficiently. Let's try the effect of the advanced vicious beast blood first. Ye Tian couldn't help but take a sip. Boom. Surges of powerful energy erupted from within his body, making it feel as if his entire being was about to be torn apart. I underestimated the energy of the advanced vicious beast blood. Ye Tian thought to himself that this was bad. So, he immediately began cultivating the intermediate primordial force body tempering method, practicing it over and over again until he finally absorbed the energy from the advanced vicious beast blood. Fortunately, I have the intermediate primordial force body tempering method. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to absorb the energy of the advanced vicious beast blood at all. Yu Ling must have known this, which is why she gave me both the intermediate primordial force body tempering method and the advanced vicious beast blood together. Ye Tian thought. He carefully estimated that the advanced vicious beast blood could increase his cultivation speed by 6 times at his current level. Adding the intermediate primordial force body tempering method, that made it 18 times. And his talent was an advanced cultivation talent, which was at least 3 times better than a medium-tier cultivation talent. Calculating it this way, compared to an ordinary medium-tier cultivation talent genius in coastal base, my cultivation speed is 54 times faster, Ye Tian marveled. However, a medium-tier cultivation talent genius could also obtain intermediate vicious beast blood to supplement their cultivation, increasing their speed by at least 2 or 3 times. But even so, his cultivation speed was still 20 times faster than other medium-tier cultivation talent users. 1 month of his cultivation was equivalent to nearly 2 years for others with a medium-tier cultivation talent. A pity there are only 10 bottles of advanced vicious beast blood. Ye Tian thought somewhat greedily. With sufficient resources and no outside disturbances, Ye Tian devoted himself entirely to his cultivation. Soon, 3 months passed. I've finally reached the level of an elite martial artist, Ye Tian said excitedly. His skin, muscles, and bones had been tempered to an extremely powerful degree, and his strength had broken the 10,000 jin limit. He had technically entered the elite martial artist level, but he wasn't yet truly at the early stage of an elite martial artist. To become an early-stage elite martial artist, one must temper their blood. The elite martial artist stage is a process of blood tempering. Only by tempering the blood to a sufficiently powerful level can it nourish the physical body, supporting its evolution toward higher levels. Cultivation is a process of evolution. Ye Tian had not yet begun blood tempering, and the process was very troublesome. It involved repeatedly expelling impurities from the blood and refining the remainder. This process consumed a large amount of blood. If nutrition couldn't keep up, the blood might even be exhausted during cultivation, leading to certain death. The best way to replenish blood was to use vicious beast blood, nourishing blood with blood. Therefore, this process required a massive amount of vicious beast blood. While advanced vicious beast blood was better, Ye Tian had long since run out, and even if he had more, it wouldn't be enough. There weren't many martial artists in coastal base, yet vicious beast blood was in such short supply because elite martial artists consumed over 90% of it. The amount they used daily was enough to leave ordinary martial artists dumbfounded. Additionally, during those 3 months, he didn't waste his chances to use his copy talent. He secretly copied several medium-tier cultivation talents and fused them into himself. Unfortunately, it didn't cause his high-grade cultivation talent to transform, but he could feel that his high-grade cultivation talent was now at its peak. Perhaps by fusing just one more high-grade cultivation talent, his talent might transform into a top-tier cultivation talent. Spending another 3 days, Ye Tian completed the initial blood tempering and stepped into the early stage of an elite martial artist. With 13,000 jin of strength, he prepared to head to Death Lake once again. He was determined to obtain the immortal jellyfish's talent. Arriving at Death Lake again, Ye Tian was slightly nervous. His cultivation was indeed many times stronger than it was 3 months ago. Even his saber intent had reached the minor achievement realm, and his shadow kill had been cultivated to the peak of major achievement. However, he still didn't dare to underestimate the dangers of Death Lake. This place held top-tier vicious beasts. If he provoked one, he would be dead for sure. It was currently evening. Ye Tian didn't enter Death Lake but waited quietly for night to fall. When night came, it would be very dark beneath the lake's surface, which was perfect for him to use his shadow talent. While the shadow talent couldn't hide him from advanced vicious beasts with mental energy, it could deceive low-level and intermediate vicious beasts. Operating at night was much safer than during the day. Night soon arrived, and the entirety of Death Lake became eerie and terrifying. Combined with the aura of vicious beasts permeating the area, an ordinary person would likely be unable to even walk. Suppressing the discomfort in his heart, Ye Tian entered Death Lake. Shadow talent. Ye Tian instantly merged into the darkness and began swimming slowly beneath the lake's surface. As an elite martial artist, he could stay underwater for an hour without breathing. He had to find an immortal jellyfish within that hour. Otherwise, he would have to return to the shore, or it would be too dangerous. It's so dark underwater. Fortunately, I have the copy talent. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to find an immortal jellyfish, Ye Tian thought to himself. Soon, using his copy talent, he sensed the first aquatic vicious beast. Species: tiger-clawed fish bloodline talent. Medium tier, Chapter 25. Seeking an offensive type talent, Chapter 25. Seeking an offensive type talent. Second update: the tiger claw fish is an intermediate vicious beast, and its strength is not weak. Ye Tian didn't bother with this tiger claw fish. Instead, he bypassed it and continued searching for the presence of immortal jellyfish. With his copy talent, no aquatic vicious beast could hope to escape his detection. Furthermore, since becoming an elite martial artist, the detection range of his copy talent had increased from 3 meters to 10 meters. Within 10 meters, he could detect the talent status of all living creatures. Time passed slowly, and Ye Tian detected many aquatic vicious beasts. The most dangerous time was when he encountered an advanced vicious beast. Fortunately, he detected it at a distance of 10 meters, and since that advanced vicious beast did not use mental energy to scan, Ye Tian was able to avoid it in time. Half an hour later, Ye Tian finally found the immortal jellyfish, and it was even a small group of them. Species: immortal jellyfish bloodline talent, elementary recovery talent, top tier. It's actually a top-tier healing talent. Ye Tian was truly shocked. He had originally thought the immortal jellyfish's talent would only be a medium-tier or high-grade talent, but he hadn't expected it to be a top-tier talent. He had never encountered a top-tier talent before, and he hadn't expected to find one on an immortal jellyfish today. Copy. I must copy it. Ye Tian said excitedly. The individual strength of an immortal jellyfish is not high, making it difficult for them to discover Ye Tian's presence. Thus, Ye Tian slowly approached one immortal jellyfish. The moment Ye Tian's right hand touched an immortal jellyfish, he copied its top-tier healing talent. The next moment, Ye Tian moved away from the immortal jellyfish to avoid being besieged by the group. A single immortal jellyfish isn't scary, but the key is that a group of them is terrifying. This was Death Lake, and he didn't want to trigger a siege by the vicious beasts here. Otherwise, even with his shadow talent, he couldn't hope to escape Death Lake. Soon, Ye Tian emerged from Death Lake. The moment he stood on the shore, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. I must leave immediately. Ye Tian quickly moved away from Death Lake and ran toward a small cave where he had stayed before. After entering the cave, Ye Tian immediately began the fusion of the top-tier healing talent. Boom! An unimaginable transformation began. If one could look deep into Ye Tian's cells, they would observe that his cells were undergoing the deepest level of remodeling. Every single cell was undergoing a massive transformation, just like an evolution. The pain brought by this remodeling completely surpassed any previous time, but Ye Tian was extremely excited. As the saying goes, he was pained yet happy. After an unknown amount of time, Ye Tian finally felt a wave of comfort throughout his body. Standing up, Ye Tian checked his talent status. Human: Ye Tian cultivation talent, high-grade speed talent, elementary saber talent, medium-tier shadow talent, elementary recovery talent, top tier. Let's test the effect of the top-tier healing talent. Ye Tian took out a small knife and cut a slit in his arm. Then a magical scene occurred. In less than a single second, the cut healed. Hiss. Ye Tian took a sharp breath. The effect of the top-tier healing talent was too astonishing. Possessing such a recovery talent, as long as it wasn't a fatal injury, it would be almost impossible to kill him. His survival capability had instantly improved by several levels. However, Ye Tian didn't think he was truly immortal. No matter how heaven-defying a healing ability is, it still requires energy consumption. If his body's energy was exhausted, the healing ability would lose its effect. If he truly encountered an enemy he couldn't contend with, it would at most allow him to delay for a bit longer. The final result would still be death. Therefore, strength is the most important thing. After resting in the cave for a night, early the next morning, Ye Tian rushed back to coastal base. In the following half-month, Ye Tian began a frenzy of hunting vicious beasts again. He also purchased a small truck, a newly produced yuan power car, which cost him a total of 1 million yuan. With the small truck, he could hunt and bring back more vicious beasts every day, greatly increasing his ability to earn money. Combined with his recovery talent, it was almost impossible for him to be killed by intermediate vicious beasts, and advanced vicious beasts were not that easy to encounter. Thus, within half a month, Ye Tian paid off his loan and saved up 5 million yuan as well as a large amount of intermediate vicious beast blood. With resources in hand, Ye Tian prepared to cultivate for a period to improve his strength. The cultivation of an elite martial artist involves tempering the blood, and there are also strict requirements for the physical body. The origin power body tempering method naturally tempers the physical body while tempering the blood. The two complement each other. A strength exceeding 10,000 jin marks one as a newly initiated elite martial artist, while the limit for an elite martial artist is 100,000 jin. Ye Tian currently had less than 20,000 jin of strength, so there was still a large gap to the peak of the elite martial artist stage. However, with his multiple talents, he was enough to contend with elite martial artists of over 50,000 jin and could save his own life against a peak elite martial artist. But this was far from enough. Ye Tian's goal was to be able to contend with peak elite martial artists and even great martial artists. Unfortunately, his talents were basically all auxiliary types. He lacked a direct offensive type talent. Next time, I must choose an offensive type talent to copy, Ye Tian decided. He held no hope for the martial artists in Coastal Base. His targets were vicious beasts. Vicious beasts with talents were much more common than martial artists. Once he locked onto a certain vicious beast, it wouldn't be hard to find. It was better than looking for a needle in a haystack among humans. Of course, vicious beasts with offensive-type talents were far more terrifying than other vicious beasts. To copy a talent from such a vicious beast, one must possess powerful strength. Thus, Ye Tian cultivated frantically over the next half-month. Because of his top-tier healing talent, he wasn't afraid of physical damage caused by overcultivation, so his cultivation speed soared. In just half a month, after exhausting countless amounts of intermediate vicious beast blood, Ye Tian finally increased his strength to the level of 30,000 jin. This was an achievement that other geniuses with advanced cultivation talents couldn't reach in several months. One day, Ye Tian searched for a suitable vicious beast from a newly purchased, relatively complete vicious beast manual. Great strength bear, an intermediate vicious beast, twice as strong as ordinary vicious beasts, suspected to have a strength talent. Ye Tian took a look and shook his head. The great strength bear might really have a strength talent, but the level of that strength talent definitely wouldn't be high. At most, it would be a subpar strength talent. It wasn't the best target. Flame Bird, an intermediate vicious beast, possesses a flame talent and can easily burn ordinary intermediate vicious beasts to death. After reading, Ye Tian shook his head again. The Flame Bird's flame talent wasn't very powerful either, at most, an elementary flame talent. Such a talent would enhance his strength, but not by much, and it wouldn't allow him to contend with peak elite martial artist experts. This vicious beast is not bad. Ye Tian's gaze locked onto a vicious beast, and he showed a look of pleasant surprise. 1,000 of you chose to be here. That's not just a number. That's 1,000 people who believed in this channel before it was anything big, and that means everything. To everyone who watched till the end, dropped a comment, hit that like button, or shared a video with a friend, thank you. You're the reason this exists, but honestly, this is just chapter 1. We're setting our sights on 5,000 subscribers in the next 30 days, and with this community behind us, I know we can get there. The content is leveling up. The journey is just getting started, and you're already part of it. Let's build something incredible together.